What is it? Oh shit! Have I moved it? Oh, the titles aren't playing. We're doing a hot open tonight of it. I bet you're there, mate.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I think I moved the theme, so it's not working in OBS. We're live. So right, speaking of spontaneous human combustion, what do you have for dinner, Hubbard?
Vindaloo. So might experience it this evening.
Your arse will feel like it's on fire in the morning. Your ring, is it going to be a ring stinger? Do you reckon of it?
Well, funny enough, I was watching an episode of King of the Hill, and Hank's dad decides to buy a timeshare in Mexico.
Yeah.
So he gets treated to this nice hotel room, and it's like fruit basket, nice painting of the general, and they got the bottled water, which doesn't give you the hot poops.
Yeah, Hobbit's not echoing anymore. I hadn't turned my speakers off. Right then, so let's dive into it, Hobbit. What do you think of the subject we're going to talk about?
It's a load of bollocks, isn't it? Right.
You think so?
Done. Thanks for watching.
Back to King of the Hill. So right, let's do some spoopy. Oh dear, I'm going to go analog tonight. I'm going to get the book out. Let me read from the book. So one of the earliest
Encyclopedia of Knowledge.
No, it's the Reader's Digest Mysteries of the Unexplained Hobbit.
Has it got illustrations in it?
Yeah.
I like it when there's that was one of the things I got annoyed when I started reading for myself.
Oh, there's a picture. I can't show it, obviously, but there's the phenomenon of spontaneous human combustion was recognised in the 19th century and may have inspired this dramatic engraving, Lady Ablaze. So what is an engraving, Hobbit?
An engraving is when they carve something into wood, and then what you can do is you can put ink on the wood engraving, and then you can stamp it on paper. So it's a form. Okay, then. It's like before they had photocopying and printers, that was a way of mass producing illustrations and such. If this was a professional show with professionalism and stuff like that, that was all done professionally and stuff. What you could do is you could take a picture of what you're looking at, or you could scan it in, and then you could save that as an image, and then you could share the image on your video screen, and then the people in the audience could see it. But then, if we were even more professional, I could have a webcam pointed at my dinner, so people could see, like, well, Hobbit's eating a lot of Vindaloo.
How about this one then?
I'm never cold, so I need something that makes the nose clear.
A mysterious, though not spontaneous, case of human combustion was reported by Dr. De Bruce in the Edinburgh Medical and Surgical Journal. This is where we could do with Geralt, I suppose. Dated March 1829. The subject's hands burst into blue flames when he attempted to help his brother, whose clothes were on fire. The flames continued for several hours to leap up and flicker over the hands, and only constant immersion in water finally extinguished them.
The patient then said, "Och, I the no."
Why would you let the flames continue for several hours and then put them in water?
Because it was funny.
I mean, wouldn't any normal person go, "Oh fuck, my hand's on fire! Quick, get some water."
So, like, this person's hand was on fire. Were they in pain? Was their hands like cooking away?
It's just that little bit there.
So, could they? No, not chicken vindaloo. Lamb vindaloo. I had a chicken pecora, so I'm balancing out my meat groups, getting a 5 a day. But
how about this one then? An English source from 1788 told of a man who entered a room where, to his amazement, he beheld a young chambermaid scrubbing the floor with fire blazing from her back. She cried out. He cried out in alarm, and it was only then the girl became aware of the fire and started to scream. She was dead before she could put out the flames.
Well, like, was it coming out of a back or a backside? Like,
Oh yeah, like
she...
don't like your Trump's kids.
Yeah, yeah. It's just one day you're bending over, scrubbing the floor, and you had you had something last night, and then suddenly you think it's safe to fart, but actually no, it wasn't a fart, and now you're in a situation where you're like, and you know what? If I just burst into flames, I won't have to live with the embarrassment of shitting myself.
See, these are the kind of ones I'm talking about. An old soldier climbed up into a hayloft.
North Steven says, I bet she was hot.
She was a proper hottie, weren't she? Smoking. Smoking, weren't she? So, an old soldier climbed up into a hayloft in Colchester, England, on Sunday, February 19th, 1888, to sleep off his drunkenness. He was found completely consumed by fire, while the highly flammable hay around him, both loose and in bundles, was not even scorched. See, this is the part of it where it's not like normal fire, is it?
Well, that's the bit which always gets me about spontaneous human combustion, is that you got people and like they're on the sofa or something, and like sometimes the fabrics are a bit singed, but apart from that, they're fine. And like their clothes are still intact, and it's like, well, hang on, aren't clothes flammable? Oh fuck, I can't eat any more of that. It's too hot.
Is it good, is it?
Yeah, it's... Well, put it this way, my nose isn't blocked anymore.
Oh, this must be the same story, because some odd things happened in Binbrook, Lincolnshire, England, around the end of 1904. In December, the Reverend A.C. Custis said that objects were being hurled around and sometimes catching fire at the rectory. A month later, a Binbrook farmer walked into his kitchen and saw the servant girl busy sweeping, oblivious to the flames leaping from the back of her dress. He shouted to her and rushed to smother the flames, but she was badly burned.
So here's a bit of speculation I've had, because I've never given spontaneous combustion. I'm trying to find out, does it happen in animals or is it a uniquely human phenomena? I remember reading in the book, the Dreaming Void series by Peter Hamilton, if anyone's interested. They were describing telekinesis in it, and it's quite interesting because they had like telekinesis with these eggs, and they were using the telekinesis to affect the developing embryo so they could genetically manipulate the creature. But another example of telekinesis was that, well, what if you make air go around in a vortex and then you keep compressing the air like you do in the diesel engine to the point where it will just ignite? And yeah, it's true. Like, have you ever seen this fire making tool called a fire piston? It's the same principle as diesel. You put a bit of tinder inside the piston, and then you slam it quickly, and the compression of the air slamming, the friction stuff, causes it to your kindling to burst into flames when you take it out. So I'm wondering, like, you know, there are some...
If you're banging... Is that why they're starting from the back? Are these women being banged a bit too hard, are they?
Well, this is the bit which I'm thinking about, right? Actually, I need to think about it more in that way, because I did see... No, I'm not getting sidetracked. I will talk about breasts later, because this is a subject we don't talk about enough on the show. But, so, with some humans, it seems most common amongst pubescent women that telekinesis happens, and it's like unconscious telekinesis. So often they say, oh, it's poltergeist activity, and it's scary because, you know, crockery's flying off the mantelpiece, and oh, what's causing it? We don't know. And how do you explain that? Well, you're a young woman, your hormones are raging, and it's developed telekinesis, but you can't control it. but we live in a world where we're supposed to pretend those things aren't
Well,
real.
if you excite particles, you can get them to catch fire, can't you?
Well, this is what I'm wondering about. Like, is spontaneous human combustion a form of telekinesis where you've agitated molecules around you so much to the point where they heat up and burst into flames? And I'm not even saying like agitating them in terms of friction. It may be an electrical impulse. There's more than one way to start a fire. And what I find interesting about this, and people can say it's bollocks or not, but I watched this video once, and it was on the.
I'll be back in one sec, Hobbit. The dog's whinging.
All right. I can tell the show. So
yeah.
Right. So now, this was a thing on the telly, and it was about this Chinese monk, and he was explaining qi to the thing. And one of the things he did with explaining about qi was saying, well, you can channel energy through your body, and you can project it. So one of the things he did is he projected it into this ball of newspaper. He just sort of put his two hands over it, shook a bit, and then the newspaper burst into flames, which I thought was very impressive. Now that Hemmy's gone, we don't talk enough about large breasts on this show, or small breasts for that matter. I think the best pair of breasts is one I can get my hands around.
Oh, have you seen the Adidas advert? The new Adidas advert? The Adidas wall?
The horrible thing about that is I like page 3, but they've managed to make
some of the
breasts
horriblest looking boobs I've ever seen in my life.
They've managed to make breasts look unsexy. I'm like, mate, what are you doing? But scientific study, right? Men should look at breasts because it's good for your health and it will extend your lifespan. Maybe these, unfortunate victims of spontaneous combustion, if they just looked at a pair of tits here and there, maybe they'd relax.
They'd still be alive to. Well, they're mostly women though, aren't they? It seems to be a women's thing though, doesn't it?
Is it?
Well, there's 2 servant women so far.
Huh.
How about this one then? Where was it?
I always thought it was.
Here you go. A most peculiar fire took the lives of Mr. and Mrs. John Kiley, a retired couple at I nearly said Buttocks Heath, but it's Butlocks Heath. Butlocks Heath, a village near Southampton, England. On the morning of February 26, 1905, neighbours heard a scratching sound issuing from the Kiley house, and on entering the house, they found the interior in flames. Mrs. Kiley was lying on the floor, totally consumed by fire. Mr. Kiley was lying on the floor, totally consumed by fire. His wife was in an easy chair in the same room. See, this is where the spontaneous human combustion is different from a regular fire, isn't it? Also badly charred, but recognisable. The police investigators noticed an overturned table and an oil lamp with its glass chimney smashed on the floor, but it was not clear how this lamp could have been the cause of such an intense fire. Now, this is the interesting bit. The easy chair on which Mrs. Kiley was found was not burned or even singed. The jury brought in a verdict of accidental death, but by what means we are unable to say. So these things are they're
Jesus. When you went then it really was sharp on the head.
What? So I don't know. I don't quite know. It's different from a regular fire, and most of these things have been investigated by police, haven't they? So these are like if we ignore Crime Bodge's YouTube channel, they're reliable witnesses, aren't they? Generally, the police the police aren't going to make something like this up, are they?
Well, it's like when there's UFOs and you've got a police testimony. In this case, I don't see how it benefits the police to make shit up.
Yeah.
Other times I'm skeptical of police because I think they're serving a political agenda, but what political agenda would they have with this person spontaneously burst into flames?
Oh, I found one from our favourite country, Hobbit. 2 constables found the burned corpse of a woman in the village of Manor near Dinapur, India in 1907. The 2 men carried the corpse, still smouldering inside unscorched clothes, to the district magistrate's office. The Indian press said the officers had seen no signs of fire in the room where the body was.
You know what the subject gets into? Something which we often talk about on the show, but not really in depth. Ball lightning. So here we go. Ball lightnings are properly involved in some cases.
Oh, they're just common as ball lightnings all the people see it all the time, don't they, Hobbit?
I'll post this in general so you can read along with it. I'm not sure why they keep calling it ball lightnings because
they're ball lightnings. They're ball lightnings, Hobbit.
Can I speak to Mr. Bentrod, please? I always thought if
I'm showing you the ball lightnings, Hobbit.
Isn't the word lightning in itself a plural word? I think it is. Maybe some pedant in the chat can say, actually, it is.
Yeah, I think it's one of those words that's both plural and singular, isn't it?
Yeah. So, ball lightning has often been seen sticking to objects and sometimes to humans with the result of a fire or explosion.
Whereabouts are you, Hobbit? Spontaneous combustion in animals or objects. What really happens in these cases? Is that what you're reading?
It's just under more physical chemical factors that can explain the fire.
Oh, right.
And I'm on the
Are we going to go
paragraph.
back up to wicking because we need to talk about wicking at some point?
Yeah, well, it's sort of it's commonly done. It's the Snopes explanation. I'm not interested in it. So.
Yeah. Well, we need to put it. We need to give people the choice of believing in wicking or not.
Why? Anyway, so anyway, the ball lightnings.
Interdimensional Lizard says it sounds like the name of a male fertility supplement. By ball lightning, you'll poke her eye out.
the InfoWars Life Store, ball lightning, super male vitality.
You'll be whacking it on the end of the bed to get it down.
You'll be drilling holes in the wall with it. So anyway, in the witnessed cases, the fire have been put out before serious damage has occurred or stopped by itself. But in some non-witnessed cases, the fire might have continued due to the Wick Effect. And some ball lightning.
Do we need to do an episode on ball lightning? Because I don't even believe ball lightning exists. I think it's made up by skeptics to just as something to just explain shit away.
No. You see, it's the correct term for it is ball lightnings.
Ball lightnings.
And you see, and some ball lightnings may have enough energy to cause extensive burns too. So the continuous electric currents from the ground up into the atmosphere have been witnessed. Often also inside houses. Actually, a slow type of lightning. What?
Slow lightning. Ooh, well, they say quick as lightning. Well, this is slow as lightning. The whole point about lightning when it's gone in a flash is because it's static electricity. It's like the voltage gets to a certain point where it can overcome the resistance of the air, and then it forms and it goes flash. If you got continuous arcing, that's because you're at a power station or something, and there's huge current which does it. But I gotta say, all those Tesla coils and stuff that Baron Frankenstein had, what a waste of electricity. Wasn't he just wasting electricity with all that?
Well, that's a bit like saying, why do we have wind turbines on the coast? I mean, surely it's windy enough there.
Did you know? I use Manscaped, and now all the women call me Ball Lightning. I'm just trying to get you a sponsorship deal there.
Remember, this show wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for super male vitality.
Ball lightning.
Yeah. Manscaped.
The new super male vitality supplement.
Oh, and do you remember when JML was a sponsor? They were great, weren't they?
No, but still haven't sent us a check yet.
Raid Shadow Legends.
Yes, and NordVPN.
Yeah.
So,
Help.
So, as I was saying, these sound
you would have thought we'd have at least been offered an Audible. Like everyone gets offered an Audible fucking advert, don't they?
I would actually advertise Audible because I can list examples of these are things of what I've listened to.
These are books I've pirated from Audible, not paid for.
I should have a go at that. Actually, I've not thought to pirate books, but why not? I mean, I pirate everything else.
Yeah.
You see, the thing is about continuous electric currents is they seldom cause any damage at all.
Dom, do you believe in ball lightning? I think ball lightning is a myth.
Yeah, I've heard about it. I can't even picture what it would look like.
I don't think you can even find a YouTube video of ball lightning.
Do some digging.
What about that one that goes over the railway? That's a famous one.
Didn't that look a bit fake?
I don't know, because I've never seen ball lightning. I have. I've seen it in a microwave. So maybe when you've got electrified rails, it could be possible to produce ball lightning. But anyway, as I was saying, these seldom cause any damage at all, but if they happen to go for a person, not humans...
Like, this is just bearing in mind, you read this description for a ball lightning video, bearing in mind that this is the thing that skeptics will tell you is like more common than UFOs. However, there is some new studies that seem to show that ball lightning is not only real, but there's possibly many different kinds. So people don't even believe it's real.
It's a type of organism.
Maybe there's like a type of elongated, linear, straight, forked ball lightning.
Yeah.
I don't think they've come up with a term for it yet. So, no, you'll see, with the ball lightnings, they might knock a person out and the current might get strong enough to cause burns by itself or a fire that continues otherwise. There's a history from Norway.
This looks like a good one. Lightning strike hits golf ball in midair.
Cool. So anyway, there's a history from. No, well, I'm gonna read it as it says it. There is history from Norway where two persons sitting at each end of a sofa in a cottage witnessed such a current, looking like a flame, coming up from the mid of the sofa. Nothing was hurt, but if a person had sat in the mid of the sofa, he might have conducted the current that then possibly could get intense enough to cause burning. You know, I'm like, I don't think English is the first language of what is this website called?
But doesn't the flesh catch? Doesn't the flesh, like, if you're like electrocuted to death, like massive voltages, doesn't like your clothes catch fire and everything, don't they?
Yeah, you put enough current. Well, I think the best way to show it is like you can put mains voltage into a hot dog and it will start to incandesce. It will glow.
What's that YouTube channel? The one where the bloke puts like massive voltages through any stuff, doesn't it?
Photonic induction.
Mm.
But the hot dog video was done by Big Clive. Actually, that's the point. Photonic Induction's doing videos again. He's got his Binny Bargy wife over in England.
Binny Bargy.
He had to spend a lot of money.
Don't you remember that? We're the Bindi Bargy people from the Vindaloo sector.
The mighty Vindaloo Empire, which has kicked my ass. I can't eat anymore. But here's the thing, right? So with the cooking hot dogs with electric, it will cook until up a certain point, and then the moisture content goes away. And then at that point, it turns into charcoal, and the charcoal does conduct electricity, and that can burn. But with these people, I don't think there's any form of desiccation going on. It's just like, oh, I'm just going to burst into flames now. And
yeah, they don't even burst into flames. Well, so where's the electricity entering the body? Because there's usually arms and legs left, aren't there?
Well, I'm thinking it's in the body.
Unless it goes up their jacksie.
I've got a theory here. It says it could be because of static electricity building up inside the body or from an external geomagnetic force. Self-proclaimed expert on spontaneous human combustion, Larry Arnold, suggested that the phenomenon is the work of a new subatomic particle called a pyroton. She says interacts with cells to create mini explosions. As of August 2018, there's no scientific evidence that proves the existence of this particle or spontaneous human combustion itself.
Is this what crank scientists now do? They just invent new particles.
I like the idea of a pyroton, though. I mean, that's like, nobody's needed to explain like fire happens because pyrotons, but but I like the idea of it because like. It always struck me as unusual what happens in the body.
Can you detect pyrotons with a detector that looks like a lady's shaver from the 90s?
Probably.
That's a Star Wars reference. That if anybody's ever watched the prequels, you remember when they're checking Anakin for midichlorians. The thing he uses to check him for the midichlorians is actually like it's like a 90s Venus razor, isn't it? It's a Gillette Venus razor from the 90s.
Oh, the totally not a Star Trek tricorder. Can I just say, there's like the Force. Oh yeah, it's this mystical like faith, and the more of it you got, the more like mystical you are. No, it turns out it's an STD, and it's like so.
And if you have enough of it, it makes a baby.
If you go to the dark side, you can fire ball lightning at people.
Yeah.
I'm gonna completely mangle the joke, and it's in like Xavier Renegade Angel Star Wars or something like that, and it's the one where Xavier is explaining to Anakin about midichlorians and the Force, and it's like, you see, the Force is like an STD. It's like, but I thought the Force was a good thing, just as love is a good thing. You can get herpes from it.
That's why all Jedi aren't supposed to have relationships, because I don't want them spreading their STDs.
How about this one? So how far did you get, Hobbit? There's still another theory is that internal psychological or psychic energy, chi or kundalini, also this is released by some control process in the brain or mind, can consume the body. So they're saying because it's old ladies doing yoga that's causing it, is it, Hobbit?
I thought kundalini was when you ate a woman's vag.
Yes, well that's how they refer to it in the Kama Sutra. But
is Kundalini Chickiolini's husband?
I don't.
You don't get the Chickiolini reference. See, Dom reckons
PWEI song, wasn't it?
Yeah, Chicchiolina for Italy. She was a porn star that was going for Prime Minister of Italy, Hobbit.
Oh, her. Well,
yeah,
I was like, I recognise the name, but I'm not sure where. And
you might remember the Pot Will Eat Itself song, Chicchiolini.
I remember on Eurotrash. Yeah,
love Eurotrash. Just the Brummy accents and stuff, brilliant. That they
that is the great thing. But no, here's the thing, right? That's sort of like, oh yeah, don't do too much yoga or you might burst into flames. Sounds as plausible as, don't shake your duvet too vigorously or you could have a heart attack.
Well, that's true. That's science. That is, Hobbit. That's absolutely true. I'm not doubting that at all.
No. I mean,
Cocoa Pops as well can cause heart attacks. Did you know that, Hobbit?
No. I heard apparently having a dry vagina causes heart attacks.
Yeah. I
don't know.
Watch out for all this stuff now.
Yeah.
Because heart attacks. Who knew that all of these things would just cause a heart attack epidemic? Too many Cocoa Pops.
Ah, yes, and kids get heart attacks more often than they spontaneously combust.
Well, they eat a lot of Cocoa Pops, don't they?
I've heard that myocarditis causes heart attacks, which is allegedly a side effect of a certain medication people have been taking.
I think you've been listening to conspiracy theories. You've had a little bit too much to think, haven't you, Dom? You need to stop that.
Here at Fortean Words Paranormal Investigations podcast channel YouTube, we would never entertain such wild conspiracy theories.
He's just mad. I have to apologise for Dom and his completely mad, insane theories.
Are you cancelling me?
Here's the thing, right? This was a paragraph before he says, I'll do it in the official Indian accent so it sounds authentic. There's a theory that some sort of internal nuclear reaction can cause the phenomenon. Perhaps some sort of god.
You just put a banana in a beer bottle in someone and they
Some
explode.
kind of god fusion. The problem with this explanation is also that it would cause the burning to start from within, which never really seems to happen. Wow, Mr. Punjab.
Hasn't he got that completely wrong? Because the thing with it's a spontaneous human combustion that it does seem to start from the inside out.
Well, I would also say, Mr. Punjab, that's where you're wrong, because with our understanding of nuclear fusion and also white people's racism fields, have you ever seen that diagram showing like a human body and it's got this toroidal field around it? It's called white man's racism field, and it's like if a coloured folk, which used to be known as people of colour, but I know that's going to be racist in a year or two.
Yeah.
So if a coloured folk enters the white man's racism field...
That didn't age well, Hobbit, saying coloured folk.
No?
No, that isn't right. I'll just say that now, so when someone in 5 years' time are going to go, I get that joke.
Yes, right, yeah. So in 5 years' time, coloured folk might be offensive, but for now I'm being avant-garde because... I understand that people of colour is on its way out.
Coloured folk when you put colour on someone, like Justin Trudeau did.
Yes, he's a coloured folk.
But he's absolutely not a racist.
No, totally not
else.
racist. Totally not racist. Totally legitimate prime minister. But yeah, so if
totally not related to Castro.
Yes, not at all. The resemblance is not
purely
there,
coincidental.
Where you reckon where he's hiding now from the truckers in Cuba?
Oh, that's so funny watching all the shit libs reeing about it.
I've noticed with all the complaints about this, we will get into spontaneous human combustion and racism fields, but first of all, just to say that all these people complain that they can't sleep because of the honking, right? Have you noticed like not one of the comments saying my kids can't get to sleep? Does nobody have a family in Ottawa? Are they all like childless?
But they're all dead.
Sad.
They're all right behind BLM, weren't they? You know, it's a people's revolution. BLM is. It's absolutely not astroturfed.
You see, looting, smashing windows, and setting things on fire doesn't keep people awake, but honking your horns and like inflating bouncy castles does. But anyway, spontaneous human combustion, cold fusion, racism fields, just like when a coloured gets into white man's racism field, they start feeling inferior.
Yeah.
That's why spontaneous human combustion doesn't have to start from within, because if you look at the toroidal field, for all we know, just like in the sun, the hottest part is not the core, but it's the photosphere, which is at the edge.
I don't know. I think looking at it, you can see it starts from the centre, doesn't it? Because the extremities always survive, don't they?
Yeah, but I'm saying like it occurs on the skin around the core of the body, not like I'm not saying it starts from the heart, but it
could be. There's a theory that it's caused when methane, which is a flammable gas produced by gut bacteria, build up in the intestines, and is then ignited by enzymes, i.e. proteins in the body that act as catalysts to induce and speed up chemical reactions.
Who invited Snopes on, Hobbit? Did you invite Snopes on here?
Yeah, but if that were true, then you'd have like a burned arsehole, and you wouldn't like result in. It wouldn't result in like your body like burning the way it does. And another thing with that, right, is like.
Well, it could, you know that one I read earlier about the woman who wasn't burnt in the chair. If it was a fart, like a fart would not, like where your back is, there'd be no oxygen to light the fart, would there?
Well, I saw a mate that set his farts on fire, and he had this red trousers on at the time, and they got singed, and there was like, you know, how do you explain to your mum and dad like, oh yeah, I set my farts on fire, and that's why my trousers are now slightly burnt looking, just like this brown stain on them, which will never shift in the wash. So I'm thinking, if it was spontaneous human combustion like that, you'd have like a stain which can't be shifted from the seat or wherever it is they're sat on. But you know,
Also that it's there's the fact that cows produce far more methane than people.
I never heard about that.
And there's been no reported instance of spontaneous cow combustion.
Well, that's why I've been.
So
So
there's like your typical spontaneous human combustion picture. That's a little one.
The thing
Let's
is,
go for large images.
The reason I'm on this website by Punjabi Times is that I typed in the question: does spontaneous combustion occur in animals? And if it's a case of methane, I know, unless somebody could say, "Oh, actually, their species of millipede is bear," right? But the most like methane-producing animal in the world is the termite. So, like a termite nest.
Jesus, look at this one. Look at this one. I bet you see this one that's on stream now.
I'll just move the window so I can have a look at it. And
I mean, that's not a lit fart, is it? That one.
That's a bit of a postage stamp size.
Basically, charred bones and some intact legs, by the looks of it.
Yeah, it's like charred top half, and then the legs are perfectly intact.
Yeah, that doesn't seem consistent with a methane fire. And plus, I think, all right, so you got a little bit of gas, but where's the rest of it going to burn? Oh, and also, this is a bit in the Ring and Cedars.
How about this one? I bet this one's a bit better.
There's a bit in Ring and Cedars of Russia which makes me laugh.
Look at that. Right? She caught fire while she was on her Zimmer frame.
It's just one leg there.
You see the Zimmer frame above it with a little shopping basket welded to it. Mint.
Yeah. So no, here's the thing.
Actually, she was on the crapper though. She could have had a Vindaloo or something, couldn't she?
So, Ring and Cedars of Russia, fire-breathing dragons, spontaneous human combustion, right? So, in it, they talk about the subject of like fire-breathing dragons, and they're saying, well, these dinosaurs, right?
Hold on. How spontaneous human combustion works? The Wick theory, stage 1 of 3. While unconscious, the victim's clothing is accidentally ignited by an external heat source.
But, like, no.
The clothes are very rarely alive.
Yeah, but also if like somebody was on fire, I don't know about you, but
is this video
a few times.
Do you want to watch a spontaneous human combustion video?
I have been set on fire a couple of times on my clothes. Like, I had some burning alcohol poured on it, and I very quickly just like with my hands rubbed it out.
Watch the video on stream.
Yeah.
I think this could be spontaneous human. What the fuck?
It'd be nice if the camera had actually, focused on the subject of what was going on.
Yeah, and didn't do it in fucking portrait instead of landscape.
Dickhead. absolute fucking noob.
Right, so that was very enlightening and very clear. And
he looked a bit too calm for that, didn't he?
So, you tell me what went on there, because I didn't understand.
He was laying there on fire, and he just waved at the bloke who was taking the picture of him.
Who was laying there? I just saw
Trump was laying there.
I saw an orange light, but there's audience. You tell me what did I see or what did I not see? You write in the comments below where it was.
Oh, this is quite a common one. I'm sorry these are a bit small because I didn't really actually sort them out, but that's quite a common one that's shown. But why did she fell? Like, is she fell there? Because the fire ain't gonna start. That's not how. If she had caught fire, how it would look, is it? So like a little poof's there. The floor looks generally okay. There's a bit of singeing up the wall, isn't there? But her legs are intact. So like, you're not gonna sort of part burn like that, are you, if it's a regular fire? It's because what temperature does it need to burn a corpse of it?
It's quite hot, and you need to do it for a long time.
I've got an example for you here of the Wick Effect. A forensic scientist, John DeHaan, Let's watch this gruesome spectacle unfold in real life, to a pig anyway. A 1998 experiment that was televised on the BBC, so there's probably footage of this. He wrapped a pig corpse in a blanket,
Oh, I watched
then
that
lit the
program.
garment ablaze, some petrol. As he looked on, the animal's body fat liquefied, adding more fuel to the fire. By the time he put out the flames, a few hours later, slow, intense burn had converted a large percent of the pig's flesh and bones into ash. The rest of the room suffered minimal damage.
But isn't the main thing with it is it's about 15 minutes? Like most of them are about 15 minutes, aren't they?
No, I haven't seen anything on time scales.
Now, one of the things which I'm drawing comparisons with here is with the victims of spontaneous combustion. We see that things are burnt, but things around them are intact, which is not what you get with a conventional fire. And I happen to know a bit about fire because my dad says, "Oh, Hobbit, you're a pyromaniac." It's, well, fire's interesting. Now, the way like these things burn, but things around it don't burn, to me would be indicative of that it's it might be a microwave beam concentrated in a certain spot. And the reason I say this is because I remember there was some unusual images, not just in the 11th of September attacks in New York City and the Pentagon, but also, do you remember a few years ago when there was those forest fires in California, and there was a very unusual, like, sort of like path of destruction somewhere where things were completely burnt, but things around it were intact. And that's where the term Jewish space lasers came from. Now,
that happened somewhere else recently. They were saying that the fire pattern was like they were calling it like a mosaic effect. Just kind of spreading weirdly and leaving patches alone.
Fraser was talking about that because he showed us that picture of that car with the melted alloys, didn't we? Didn't it?
Yeah, where like the papers haven't caught on fire, but the aluminium is like disintegrated in other parts of melted slag. So,
how about this then? Ketosis. 15 facts and cases attributed to spontaneous human combustion. Ketosis can explain alleged mysterious cases of spontaneous human combustion. Hobbit. Ketosis causes acetone, apparently. Produces acetone, which is highly flammable.
Yeah, I've noticed, like, with alcoholics, like, the day afterwards, have you noticed they got that smell like fumes about them?
Yeah.
I think that's acetone, because ketosis is more like, well, they produce ketones and skatol and indoles, and those are aromatic compounds which are flammable, but really it just causes them to have shit breath.
I mean, because so is that, like, the bowel is quite flammable, isn't it?
Well,
that goes back to the methane, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like shit is flammable. Like if you're dealing with, say, yak dung, you can burn it. It's the same with cow dung. You know, it's good to cook with cow dung. You can do it. But when it's in its liquid state, I imagine it's a bit too difficult to light.
So spontaneous human combustion, obviously, while we're talking stuff, we'll talk some terms. It refers to a death from a fire originating without an apparent external source of ignition. So this is what we've got to remember. It's not this fell over and that fell over and the woman's dress fell over. The woman's dress caught light. It's not that. That's not spontaneous human combustion.
Could just be that the source of ignition burnt along with it, and so there's no evidence of it.
But even though the fire inspectors, they're shit, aren't they? They know they know everything about, like, seats of fires and things like that, don't they? So it's because that's almost a science in itself, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is a form of forensics because they can identify the source of fire. It is an interest, right? So the show's going to be over after I read this, right? Because this is definitive, right? So this is an answer by his name's Christian Winter, who's a senior software architect. So definitely the sort of person.
Does his missus say winter is coming, Jon Snow?
So he has definitively answered the question: why is it that only humans undergo spontaneous combustion?
Mm.
There is so much wrong with this question. Firstly, spontaneous human combustion is far from being fact. There are hypotheses how such a thing could happen, but all lack experiments to actually falsify them. From scientific point of view, spontaneous human combustion is an entirely unconfirmed hypothesis and widely considered to be a myth. The fact that sometimes people start to burn and no cause can be found does not change that. Nah. Secondly, even if spontaneous human combustion was actually a thing, how could we know that it does not happen to... Is his name Kevin Colin Nigel? How could we know...
Kevin Colin Nigel Karen.
Yeah. How do we know this does not happen to other animals, while the vast majority of animals live without any humans around to actually observe a spontaneous combustion?
Well, they do make a slight case, because no one's seen it happen in the street, have they?
Well, hang on. Kevin, Colin, Brian, Nigel hasn't finished
Karen.
yet. And yes, until further, we need some Karen for men. Kevin,
Yeah.
I don't know.
But no, it's Karen for men is Neil after Neil Young.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Until further notice, humans don't spontaneously burst into flames without a cause, and neither do other animals. Ugh. So
I've heard Gary Glitter's taking his back catalogue from Spotify because he's disgusted with Joe Rogan as well.
I heard Milli Vanilli have threatened to pull someone else's music from Spotify. Also, that Yoko Ono's threatened to have her music put onto Spotify.
So this, I recognise this guy. Isn't he like Michael Glenister? Isn't he?
No, Philip Glenister. You're thinking of Philip Glenister, who was.
I can see his face. He was also in that show Hustle, but the man from
No,
Uncle.
that's Philip. Oh yes, that is another Glenister. That's Philip Glenister's brother. Philip Glenister was in Life on Mars, wasn't he? Gene Hunt.
Oh, okay. Oh, so who's the man I'm thinking of? Then?
That's his brother. I think that's his brother, isn't it? There's another Glenister, isn't there?
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, so Michael Glenister says the idea of spontaneous human combustion comes from a misunderstanding of how fire behaves in enclosed space.
But how about this one then? Apparently, the British Medical Journal covered the topic of spontaneous human combustion in 1938. It noted the following common characteristics. So, if any of these aren't there, then I think they're right, and I think it's not spontaneous human combustion. Victims were chronic alcoholics. Actually, some of these aren't, but the later ones are. So, victims were chronic alcoholics, mostly elderly females. The hands and feet usually fall off. Fire caused... See, these are the must-haves, I'd say. Fire caused little damage to combustible things in contact with the body, and combustion left a residue of greasy and putrid ashes. Apparently the ashes stink.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
That's
probably fake news, because haven't you heard that Facebook have recently fact-checked the BMC?
Oh, have they?
Oh, yeah.
And they call them a news blog.
Oof.
Ah, right. I see.
Oof.
So as Michael Glenister says, it comes from misunderstanding or fire beliefs in enclosed space. Or fire will quickly use up most of the oxygen and change to a slow smolder. A body in this situation, in combination with their clothes, will act like a candle, burning body fat and slowly incinerating the body without damaging much of the surrounding room. So basically, the reported examples of SHC are where someone has accidentally caught themselves on fire and knocked themselves out, or succumbed to the smoke, and they were slowly consumed by this process. Firemen.
Do you want to hear some tip-top police work? So in 1951, 67-year-old woman named Mary Reeser was found burned to death in her house after a landlady realised the house's doorknob was extremely hot. Her remains completely burned to ash with only one leg remaining. Her chair was also destroyed. Detectives found her temperature to be around 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit, but everything else in the room was found intact. A common theory is she was smoking a cigarette after taking sleeping pills, then fell asleep while holding the burning cigarette, which could have ignited her gown, ultimately leading to her death. Because you can get 3,500 degrees F from a nightdress, can't you? I bet.
Just before her death, she was heard uttering the phrase "Flame on."
I bet, yeah, mate.
It's combusted.
He's spontaneously combusted. He's mooted. He's mooted himself. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of gaps in this stuff, isn't there? A lady's nightdress isn't gonna get you to the temperature of 3,500 degrees F. Otherwise, when they were smelting, they'd just use ladies' nightgowns, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Well, it could be like the pig that was wrapped in a blanket. How it kind of it's if it's enough to get the body fat hot, then that increases the temperature.
This picture doesn't match the picture doesn't match the. Obviously, they didn't have a picture for John Irving Bentley, so this bucks the trend. It's a geezer. In 1966, 92-year-old physician named John Irving Bentley was found burned to death in his house in Pennsylvania. All that was left of him was the lower half of his right leg with the slipper still on it. There was a foot-long square in the four floorboards, and the rest of his body reduced to a pile of ashes in the basement below. His walker lay across a hole in the floor generated by the fire. The rubber tips on it were still intact, and the nearby bathtub was barely scorched. That's weird.
Like your theory about how it seems to be mostly women, it could be because of the extra fat in their tits.
Or men with moobs. Do you reckon men with moobs are at risk, do you?
Shit, does that mean I'm at risk?
Yeah. In 1982, in 1982, a mentally handicapped woman named Jeanne Saffin was reported to have spontaneously caught fire by her father who was with her. She was doused with water and taken to hospital where she died 8 days later. One witness claimed that Jeanne had flames coming from her mouth, made roaring noises like a dragon, and that her clothes were unburnt. Later research found her clothes were burnt, and hospital records found her mouth was undamaged.
I wonder if you could make a legitimate insurance claim.
Act of God. I think they'd probably put it under Act of God, wouldn't they? What else we got here?
I found something on Ball Lightning.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. They say there's a hypothesis proposed by someone whose name I can't pronounce, suggested that they might not be lightning at all. It could be simply light trapped inside a sphere of thin air.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've seen experiments with plasma in microwaves, and a great one you can do. Don't do it with your existing microwave, or unless you realise microwaves are evil and want to burn it. You light a candle, you stick it in the microwave, and then you can make this ball of plasma which floats around, and it carries on burning like that because the energy is being fed into it. Now, I saw an example. I think the YouTube channel is called Nile Red, and he had a candle, and it was underneath a glass beaker, and he said, I don't understand why it's making a yellow flame, because I've done the maths, and it's like paraffin wax, and it's this, and it's that. It should have this colour. It should be a white flame. And then he realised what was happening is that the plasma got so hot that it was stripping sodium atoms out of the glass. And sodium, like you see in the old-fashioned street lights, it has an orange amber hue to it when ignited. I just got to say, I really like those old-fashioned street lights. Low pressure sodium.
There was a reason they used orange as well, wasn't there? It's something to do with the part of the light spectrum it's on, but I can't remember what the reason was.
Is it because it's close to fire? Fire doesn't kind of fuck with your circadian rhythms like other light bulbs do.
Oh, okay.
Could be
think
something to do with that.
It's a happy coincidence, right? Because you could use, I suppose, lithium or magnesium is as abundant
I've
as
got hold
sodium.
on. I've got to say this page I've got up now that I'm going to talk about in a minute. One of the side questions is can Stevie Wonder really see?
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
When he said very superstitious writings on the wall, how the fuck did he know?
So, with regards to low pressure sodium and also high pressure sodium, it's I don't think it was intentional. It just happens to be a happy coincidence that it's a nice color. It's very efficient at what it does. If you notice when the lights start up, they glow pink. That's because it's neon gas in there. And then when the sodium warms up, it turns from solid into a gas. And that's when it starts to glow orange. And as you notice, it glows much brighter once it's there because the sodium's more conductive than the neon. And that's how we get a sodium light. And the high pressure sodium, it's like low pressure sodium, but it's at high pressure. And it gets much hotter, and that's where you get a white light. So, yeah. Damien says...
sorry, carry on.
Damien says, yeah, his brother was in Hustle, yeah. I need to look up who this Glenister actor...
Yeah, but you come up with Philip Glenister first. He was Jeanne.
Oh, yeah, Philip Glenister. So who's the old bloke in Hustle, then?
Oh, you
the one that
Robert
was in The Man
Vaughan,
from
and
Uncle.
you keep calling Vaughan for some reason. He's Robert Vaughan.
Robert Vaughan, because his name is... What about that comedian called Johnny Vaughan?
That's Johnny Vaughan.
Vaughan.
There are no Vaugans, only Vaughans.
Why is there a GHN in his name if you're not supposed to pronounce it?
Because you don't pronounce it, I bet.
Probably Dutch or
Like
something.
all those poncy French words you use, mate, you don't pronounce half of it.
Well, actually, when I go over there, they always laugh at me because it's like, why are you pronouncing all the letters in that word? Because I don't know how it's pronounced.
They take the last consonant is always redundant for some reason.
There's like half of the letters in some words are just not pronounced. So I'm like, this is like when like you try to explain thorough to someone. It's like, how do you spell thorough? Well, it's F-U-R-R-E-R. No, it's T-H-R-O-U-G-H-R-L-Y.
It's like the name Siobhan. It's spelled Seopan.
Siobhan is the worst, and that's not even English. And the other one is like there's a town in the west of England, and it's written F-R-O-M-E. So
It's
normal
Froome,
native
isn't
English,
it?
a normal native English speaker. There we go. I was struggling with saying that. I will say, that's pronounced from, and it's not. It's from, or is it from? Oh,
Froome, isn't it? I think it's Froome.
It's not Anglo-Saxon. It's not Roman. It's Celtic, and it's one of the few Celtic place names in England. It's Froome, from. Where you from? I'm from. Yeah.
Oh, Irish. Eogan is Owen.
Yogurt.
Eogan. In the mention
Eogan.
says in chat. Eogan is Owen.
Yeah, the Irish.
There's that other name, isn't it? Is it Orlaith, which is Orla, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know. It's one of those things that's as incomprehensible as spontaneous human combustion.
So anyway, police in London are investigating a mysterious case of spontaneous human combustion after a man burst into flames in the middle of a London street. John Nolan, a 70-year-old Irishman, so he's obviously an alcoholic, was walking down a street in Haringey, North London on September the 17th, 2017, when, according to reports, he spontaneously caught fire. Police and fire service were called to the scene in Orchard Place, Haringey, but then it was too late to save him. His face and head was swollen and his hair was burnt off. It was horrible stuff, says Mr. Nolan's nephew, Kevin Byrne. Detectives investigate...
That's funny. His
Kevin
name
Byrne.
is the thing that happened.
Oh, that's not nice. That's Alan Drinkwater's mate, isn't he? Detectives investigating the case.
Does he know Phil McCann?
Yeah, they all go pub together. Detective investigating the strange case say the cause of Nolan's death is unexplained. No flammable objects were found on him, and specialist fire investigators could find no reason for why the former construction worker from County Mayo caught fire and died. I mean, the unexplained case is still open, and the police are appealing for more witnesses.
The thing which I think is like good in this. Remember when we did the 3 or 4 part series on animal exsanguination and stuff like that? We've studied, I would say, not exhaustively, but we have had a pretty good look into unusual things what have been done with animals on this show.
Yeah.
As well as twins and India. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't think in any of our investigations we found like, here's an animal what is burned in a way that looks like spontaneous human combustion.
Yeah.
And you'd think something like a sheep with the way its wool. I mean, sheep's wool is full of lanolin.
Yeah, but sheeps don't drink booze. I think they could be right. It could be like booze related.
But not.
Is it some kind of weird thing where they burp and then like take it back, and then it smoulders in your gut or something? I don't know. I'm just like spitballing. I've got no. I've thought about it long and hard, but I just can't I can't come up with like a working theory as to what it. The only thing I can think of, it must be excited particles in you or something like that.
I don't think it's a chemical process. I mean, sure, like later on, like when your fats and your bones are burning, then that's chemical. Yeah. But I think something that starts off as electrical was, some speculate, cold fusion. Oh, I remember something interesting being shown in cold fusion. This was in New Scientist, almost 2 decades ago, actually. It was talking about how bubbles...
Man tries to cure his constipation by inserting a live eel up his anus. Ooh.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's not going to work, is it?
This is a China story, and I'm sure we've done it.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, right. So, bubbles, when they collapse, they form little points of light, and it's theorized that those little points of light are in fact because the air or the gas is really hot, and so in fact it's a form of cold fusion. So if you could somehow harness the power of bubbles collapsing and cavitation.
What kind of bubbles are you talking about?
So cavitation, where you got like a propeller that goes through the water, and when it gets cavitation is this thing where
so you're talking about bubbles in water,
where the blade goes so quickly through the water, it causes these bubbles to happen because the friction is causing steam, and then the steam makes these bubbles, which then when they collapse, they are very loud, and it's something which is talked about in naval warfare because you don't want to go too fast because then you cause cavitation, and that can be heard on sonar quite distinctly. But further investigations into cavitation say like it's producing light, and we estimate that when it's causing this light to happen, there's an incredibly hot burst of. It's hot. It's like it's incandescing. That's why there's light. But they call it cold fusion because like it's being absorbed by water.
Yeah.
Do you know? I think I remember talking to my grandfather about this in the early 90s. He was saying, "Oh, there's no such thing as cold fusion. It's a fantasy." Whenever he said that, I always thought to myself, "Well, that's like your opinion, dude."
Wasn't cold fusion at one point? It was like the ever working what do they call perpetual motion machines and things like that?
Well, Stanley Mayer's water-driven car was cold fusion, as is a Brown's gas generator, and I think we've talked about that on another show before. But just as a recap, right? If you use a resonant frequency to crack water into its constituent parts, you get hydrogen and oxygen, which you can then burn, and it burns. It's very unusual. It's not hot flame, not like oxyacetylene, but if you're using it to do welding, it's very corrosive. It will like cut through steel much quicker than an oxyacetylene torch can. and yet if you play it over a human hand, nothing happens. It's it's not painful, and you put up against a pane of glass, and the glass doesn't shatter. It just like you get some condensation on it because the waste product is water. And this process was not like Stanley Mayer's invention. He discovered the same process that the Ministry of War, which then got rebranded as Ministry of Defence, came up with in World War II, which was on the Northern Front. The petrol-driven tanks wasn't enough petrol because the convoys kept being sunk by submarines, so they needed a way to make the petrol go further, and that's where they discovered that if they had a tank of water along with the tank of petrol, they could make Brown's gas, inject it into the air intakes, and then they would have a 60% extra range. And I thought this is very interesting. I would love to find more information about it, but surprise, surprise, it's classified.
I reckon Brown's gas is just methane.
Brown, it is the technical term for it. It's probably because there's like some sort of physicist with a surname like Brown who came up with it. But actually, what you're thinking of is hydrogen sulfide and the other compounds in farts, what like scatol in indoles, what make the smell. Actually.
So do you want to hear? Do you want to hear a story? The spooky unsolved death of Madge Knight. In 1943, the woman named Madge Knight lived a fairly
Wait. Is this Knight spelt night, or is it Knight as in Knigget?
Knigget. Yeah, she's the Knigget who says knee. So lived in a fairly content life in Aldingbourne, West Sussex, England, where she lived with a retired architect husband. Was that architect?
Hello, I live an idyllic life, I do. I'm Mrs. Knigget.
Yeah. And her sister and her sister's husband, Mr. and Mrs. Basil Moore, who had a room at their home. In the November of that year, Mr. Knight took a trip to London with Madge's sister.
More spelt more? Is that more spelt Maury? Muri, yes.
Yeah. Mr. Knight took a trip to London with Madge's sister, Dirty Blader, and the two returned on the afternoon of the 18th. According to the Moores that evening, the Kniggets got into a huge argument, which was rare for them, and was suspected to be caused by jealousy over the trip to London, mixed with the heavy drinking Marge had been doing that evening. The fight was so bad.
An argument of how to pronounce their surname.
Yeah, that was a massive argument. And she said, "And your name's pronounced Knigget."
It's Knight. Can I just briefly, right?
Yeah.
I was working in the call centre, and it was my very first day, and it was a Mr. Clow, as in you look at plough, but replace the P with a C.
Yeah.
So can I speak to Mr. Clow, please? It's Clough, and if you're trying to sell me something, you do well to get my name pronounced correct. It's like, well, I've never seen someone with the name written Clow before. Clow as in plough. No, it's Clough. Oh, yes, I'm just going to
So
pluff
you never
my
heard
fields.
of Brian Clough?
No, I've never heard of Brian Clough, and I've never heard of someone saying, "Oh, that horse, you're going to the pluffing championship." Yeah, I've got this bronze pluff. It's really good for pluffing fields, it is. I'm going to pluff your missus tonight. I beg your pardon. Sorry, I mean plough.
So anyway,
I think Vaughan's not far from me, actually.
So there was jealousy over the trip to London, mixed with the heavy drinking Marge had been doing that evening. The fight was so bad that the Moores allegedly left the premises for a while until it cooled down, coming back around 10 p.m. This seemingly normal turn of events, he's obviously a complete bitch then. This normal turn of events would soon spiral out of control and would only be the beginning of a strange mystery and an eerie unsolved death that has eluded all understanding to this day. Dun dun dun. When the Moores returned, they found Madge sitting alone, still drinking, and Mr. Knight had gone to bed. This time she seemed calm and thoughtful, in fact fairly lucid considering how much she'd drunk. She even had one more nightcap with the Moores before going to bed herself. She would not offer any information on what the argument had actually been about, and the Moores just let it go. When she went to bed, Marge was reported as being quite tipsy, although this was not particularly strange for her. Absolute fucking pisshead nutter. She was known to have had 5 or 6 whiskies every evening, and so at this point would have been all par for the course. The only oddity of the evening being her uncommonly fierce argument with her husband. However, things were to get very strange indeed.
So you're saying that her burps could start fires?
I don't know. I'm just thinking something. I don't know.
It could be that the alcohol's flammable, and also that alcoholics develop more adipose fat tissue, which explains the Wick Effect.
Is there any oxygen in your gut? Does anybody know that?
Yeah. You swallow air when you eat your meals. There's and like when you fart, it's not just methane and hydrogen sulfide. There's trapped air in it as well. There's also nitrogen from nitrogen bacteria.
So it is possible that if a fire could start in your gut, it wouldn't be hot enough to because haven't you got to get all the moisture out first before the flesh will actually burn?
Yeah, it's the water content inside your body. You're at least 70% water. So all right, say you've got you've got the equivalent of petrol fumes in your stomach, and you swallow a lit match, and you do a great big burp, and your stomach blows up like in The Mask.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. It's a flash in the pan. It's gone.
Yeah.
It could be a genetic thing. It could be like a genetic thing. Certain people can produce these, maybe some kind of super enzyme that's capable of causing a sort of chain reaction.
But it's got to be a sustained fire, though, hasn't it? And surely you know if your gut was on fire. How does a super enzyme get
around the water content? Because all I'm thinking is, these people, maybe they're so desiccated, they're like the creosote bush, which can spontaneously burst into flames.
Or they're just full of oil, like the eucalyptus tree.
Well, I heard about the creosote bush.
Yeah.
When I was a gardener at a hotel for a while, and I was going to get some and plant them around the place for a laugh, but my plan never came to fruition.
Eucalyptus is the one you want because it's full of oil, and the Aussies must have been having an absolute joke when they sold it to the Californians. Because they planted all these eucalyptus trees in a place where you have a lot of forest fires.
Whoops.
I wonder if koalas spontaneously combust then, because they live it. That's like their diet, isn't it?
Yeah. I know they can give you chlamydia if they piss on you.
Oh god! I wouldn't have had a photo taken of me holding one in Australia if I'd known that.
Did you not know that? Because the only reason I know is because One Direction were photographed with one. That's when I found that fact out.
Was that just an excuse to say One Direction have all got chlamydia now, not because of all the gay sex they have in the gay sex orgies and gay bathhouses, but because a koala did a wee-wee on one of them. Now they all have chlamydia.
So anyway,
remember Sean Locke joke? I remember Sean Locke joke, and he was saying how he had a photo taken with this koala. In the photo, the koala was all cross-eyed because he'd accidentally slipped his finger up its arse while he was holding it.
So anyway, back to Madge.
Koalas are so just a minute. Koalas are so dumb, right? That they don't recognise the eucalyptus leaves. If you just pluck eucalyptus leaves from a tree and put them on a plate and hold it in front of it, they just look at it absent-mindedly. They don't recognise those are eucalyptus leaves. That's the
are they like panda
diet.
levels of don't want to live anymore?
I think maybe the eucalyptus makes some actual stone, because that's what it seemed to be.
It's something to do with their smooth-brained and their visual cortex isn't advanced, but I think there must be some sort of evolutionary thing, like the cuter an animal looks.
I think Uno's getting worried because he said, "Can we find a teetotal spontaneous human combustion?"
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out. Do animals spontaneously combust? Because termites should be a prime candidate for it, but they don't.
Do you remember that bloke that got caught drunk? You ever heard about that bloke that got caught drunk driving? He tried to claim, "Oh shit, there's that." Do you remember that disease where the woman's blood creates its own alcohol? Hobbit.
Yeah. There's quite a few people. It's usually the gut where there's some sort of yeast infection in the gut. So whenever the carbohydrates, it gets turned into sugars, which the yeast then turns into alcohol. So spontaneous alcohol production.
Speaking of which, I'm just off to get more beer.
That could create a sustained fire, couldn't it?
Yeah, but it's so rare that you have these things in people.
Yeah, but so is spontaneous combustion, isn't it? Yeah.
But I mean, it's such a rare condition that it would be known. Like with these people, they'd be like, "Oh yeah."
I don't know. Didn't that woman like she was accused of being an alky all the time? It was quite hard for her to get it diagnosed.
Well, I remember it being a man, but it's probably also like a woman. It's happened more than once. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's such a rare occurrence.
Oh, do you remember that JD Lee when we did that story about that woman who had orgasms like at the slightest thing? She couldn't even look at her boyfriend.
It is such a rare occurrence that if it were to happen, it would be documented. Like, oh yes, this victim of spontaneous combustion happened to have this like yeast infection which caused them to get alcohol.
I don't know. What the thing I remember mostly about that story was the woman had a nightmare getting it diagnosed. Like the doctors were fucking absolutely rubbish about it.
I do remember a story of this bloke who had like hundreds of orgasms a day, and there's this video where he's at his father's funeral and he's coming in his pants, and it's really embarrassing for him. And you know, he's just saying like, it's horrible because he can't really have a normal life because just everywhere he goes, he's always coming. And
I'm coming.
Literally, like, you know, and how tired and sore must your balls be if you're like coming hundreds of times a day?
You cock if it's hard all the time. It's a fucking nightmare.
Well, no, I think he doesn't need an erection to come, but like. Yeah, I don't know the story about the woman. I do remember they were talking about the old antidepressants, the tricyclic antidepressants, and one of them would have this side effect on them, and I think this is why they got them replaced with SSRIs, because like, no, we need something that's more boring than this, where if you'd yawn, you'd have a spontaneous orgasm. So it is one of the tricyclics. I don't know which one it is. Sorry.
Well, so this is where it started.
Sped West has just said he got the gush.
Yeah.
But the gush.
So anyway, back to Marge. So around 3:30 a.m, the house was shaken by screaming coming from Madge's room. This is where it starts getting weird, and it's nothing to do with the spontaneous combustion. The Moores went running in to see what was going on, to find Madge lying in bed naked and covered with only her blanket. She was writhing and groaning in pain, and they could see it looked as if the skin on her back had somehow peeled away. Miss Moore allegedly attended to her sister, while oddly Mr. Moore simply went back to bed. For reasons unknown, nothing else was done. So his sister's like skin's like falling off her back, and they're like, "Well, just sleep it off. We'll go see the doctor in the morning."
So it's death by apathy.
Yeah, well, it's not even like, no, they just left her with the skin falling off her back all night. When Marge calmed down somewhat, she was left on her own to go back to sleep. There was no effort to call for medical help at the time. Well, they just didn't want to bother the doctor. That's what the time was like, wasn't it?
That sounds like the story of my grandmother telling me, like, when she was pregnant with my father and the waters broke, and she told my grandfather, he's like, "Oh, can't it wait until tomorrow morning?" Like, I'm having your son. Well, they you know, your ultrasound wasn't there. It's like, I'm having our child.
Yeah.
Despite stick a cork in it.
Despite the fact that Madge was reported as being in great pain and the skin had mysteriously and gruesomely peeled off her back. Also strange, at no point did Madge's own husband wake up or come to help her, sleeping through the whole thing. He must have been a fucking cracking sleeper.
Yeah. Amazing.
So, it would not be until the following morning at 8 a.m. that Mr. Knight would learn what had happened, and the doctor was finally called in, who did not arrive until 11 a.m. Fucking hell. This woman has had the skin peeling off her back for 6 hours.
Do you think it's like, you were saying she's a complete bitch? I'm thinking like, it's probably the point like...
She must be an absolute cunt where people are like, well, you know, I'm not troubling any this time. You're a complete cunt.
Yeah, you can suffer a bit. You had it coming, bitch.
Yeah. The doctor would examine the injured woman and come to the conclusion her back had been quite badly burned, giving her morphine immediately, but there was no smell of burning in the room or anywhere else into the entire house. There was also found
before I spontaneously combust. Be right back.
There was also found no source of flame that could have accounted for a fire big enough to have caused such a grievous burn, and there was also found no evidence of any sort of corrosive substance anywhere on the premises. It was also rather weird that the bedclothes had not been burned or even so much as singed, nor were the clothes that Madge had been wearing when she retired to her room for the night or anything else in the house. The doctor was baffled, unable to determine how exactly this could have happened, and the police would be equally perplexed when they arrived on the scene. An investigation into the previous evening's events would turn up some discrepancies in the Moore's version of events compared to the husband's. While they said the Knights had been arguing intensely for the previous evening, Mr. Knight had a different, conflicting version of events. According to him, he had merely sat and listened to his wife, who was upset at him, and who was described as excited and overwrought rather than angry. According to him, she had been strung up and stressed out from doing so much housework all of the time, as well as her ailing health, and that it had nothing to do with his trip to London. Weirdly, he claimed he had been woken up by the Moores coming home that evening, and he had heard them talking to his wife, yet he claimed he had slept through the screaming later on. It is unclear what happened to Madge, but it is certainly curious. Nevertheless, the police at the time did not deem it to be particularly suspicious. In the meantime, Madge was taken to hospital for treatment, where another doctor came to the conclusion that burns had been caused not by a fire, but rather a corrosive substance, such as acid. There's no sign of anything like that in the home. Medical staff did all they could for her, but Madge would die 4 days later from bacterial toxins in the blood due to her injuries, a condition called toxemia. A full inquest was launched into the strange death, but many balls were dropped. The conflicting testimony of the Moores and Mr. Knight were not investigated or questioned further, nor was the fact that Mr. Moore had simply gone back to bed on the night of the incident, or the odd detail that Mr. Knight had purportedly slept through the whole thing, and the fact that no one had gone to summon him to tell him what was going on. It was not cleared up just why the doctor wasn't called in until the following morning, or why he didn't arrive until 11 a.m. In the end, no concrete cause for the burns could be found in the house, and no one was apprehended for any wrongdoing. The case ended with an open verdict, and that was that. The case has been mostly forgotten and never solved. While it is certainly mysterious, it would have made more when it was resurrected by the paranormal researcher Harry Price, when he included it in his 1945 book Poltergeist Over England, in which he really emphasises the mystery of those burns and speculates that they were caused by some sort of ghostly forces. It was largely due to Mr. Price's take on the events that the strange case of Madge Knight would go on to become a case of spontaneous human combustion. Is that what was going on here? Was it some sort of foul play or the work of paranormal forces? There is a good chance that we will never know, and remains a nebulous historical oddity that may forever float past our understanding.
There you go, there's a paranormal aspect. It could be some kind of demonic possession causes them to combust.
Oh, it could be. Well, they're so crazy they just catch fire.
Was it you or Hobbit that mentioned concentrated microwaves earlier?
Hobbit was talking about it was Hobbit, and he was talking about something. I can't. Plasma. Making plasma in the microwave.
Oh yeah, because I remember when I was a kid, when I was about 12. My mate's younger brother had brought the class stick insect home to look after over the school holidays. My mate decided to put it in the microwave.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And it just it was walking about, and then it stopped, and it kind of rocked from side to side. Then its arse just burst. No combustion involved.
No.
Yeah, it was...
Oh, Jesus. Hobbit, did you just hear that story? Oh, I thought it was Hobbit back. Oh, grim. That is truly grim. What else have we got here? There was one. That's not the one I'm looking for. Weird things you didn't know about spontaneous human combustion. So the fire doesn't spread. We've already spoke about that one. Most victims don't fully combust. Yeah, there's usually like an arms and legs. It's weird how it doesn't spread to the extremities, isn't it?
Well, there's that same thing happened to that pig. Its legs were left, and they reckon that the extremities don't contain as much fat as the core does. So they're less likely to go up in smoke. That's back to the Wick Effect.
So I'll need to talk about that soon. Then I'll have a look at that. So maybe tied to alcoholism. A lot of these people, like even that woman just now, drink booze.
It's making me think I might need to cut down on drinking.
In case you catch fire. Carbon monoxide poisoning could be to blame. And that's what exactly Howard did to test his SHE had nothing to do with alcohol. Thrice daily administered anywhere from a half to a full drum of whiskey to a flock of roosters. No, not one spontaneously combusted before dying, and none of their corpses could be set alight. So much for alcohol then. But Havel wasn't done. As he explained in his paper, he went on to theorise the true cause of SHC was a gradual carbon monoxide poisoning. So he tested his theory by poisoning a bunch of rabbits. The rabbits died. The rabbits died, but guess what? Havel was easily able to set their bodies on fire, and they burned with the same kind of blue flame that is often reported in cases of spontaneous human combustion. Hobbit, what do you think to that?
What causes carbon monoxide poisoning?
Well, it's an impure burn. So
okay, so it could be back in the day, because this was. I've got a little bit here. It was first penned back in 1663. There was carbon monoxide poisoning going on back then.
Yeah,
you can still have an impure burn. You can have an impure burn from coal or anything.
So
it's happened with. Is it gas barbecues or is it just regular coal barbecues? Right. There have been people that have been carbon monoxide poisoned in tents, haven't they? Because they brought the barbecue in.
Any place where you got an impure burn, you're going to get carbon monoxide instead of carbon dioxide. I've had it before in my chimney where it hasn't got a cap on it, so birds like to put twigs down there, and eventually it starts filling up, and then the smoke doesn't get out. So one day I noticed that my carbon monoxide alarm was going off, and I ignored it because I thought, it just must mean you knew my battery. And then I noticed I got a headache, and I looked at the carbon monoxide alarm and it's like, yeah, you got dangerous levels of carbon monoxide. So I opened all the windows and the doors, and I went upstairs because I think carbon monoxide's heavier than air. I had a bad headache. I didn't look at my face to see if it was flushed or not. Because
you get is it like red blotchy, isn't it?
Yeah, carbon monoxide poisoning causes bright red skin because of how it binds to hemoglobin.
Because it thickens your blood, doesn't it? Isn't that how it works?
No. So hemoglobin in your blood gets oxygenated, and it turns bright red. And then when it gives up the oxygen to the tissues, it goes to sort of dark red in your veins. But carbon monoxide, it doesn't give it doesn't give up. I'm not sure what happens to the carbon monoxide, but it attaches to the hemoglobin, and it doesn't deattach to the hemoglobin. So the only way that you can start breathing again is if you've got enough red blood cells which haven't been poisoned by the carbon monoxide, that you can start. Like, for example, cyanide poison causes suffocation because it stops the hemoglobin carrying oxygen around.
That carbon dioxide is like a stable molecule, whereas carbon monoxide wants to form a compound, so that's why it binds with the hemoglobin.
Right. Funny enough, carbon dioxide, the reason when your lungs start burning and you need to breathe, it's the carbon dioxide that's building up in your lungs. It's ever so slightly acidic. I think when it reacts with water, it forms carbonic acid, and that causes the burning you feel in your lungs, and that's what encourages you to breathe.
You can use what's called the physiological sigh to release excess carbon dioxide. If you get a stitch, you can use this technique. It's where you take a sharp intake through your nose of breath, and then another one again, just to kind of fill up the corners of your lungs, and then you kind of do a long sigh.
Yawning yawning and sighing is to get rid of the stale air so that you get fresh oxygen into your thing.
So
But you sigh when you're bored, then.
So I wonder why, like, carbon monoxide poisoning would. So that would kind of, it seems to explain a lot of these. So you look at, they've all got a trad fireplace, haven't they? So it could be rather than the wicking, it could be that so the chimney's fucked. They got the carbon monoxide poisoning. Then they drop a fag, catch fire, and that's that. But dropping a fag isn't part of it because the clothes aren't generally burnt, are they? That's the only other problem, isn't it?
Well, Lizard asks, I think, a very good leading question. He says, why is the Wick Effect not used for cremation? It would save a lot of energy. And indeed, cremation costs a lot of fuel to properly burn a human body. And when the foot and mouth disease thing happened and they were burning all those corpses with rubber tires and pallet wood, some people were saying, why not use napalm? And my dad said, because, you know, he's a boomer and he believes in this sort of stuff, like, the Germans really need to share their technology of those self-sustaining ovens which run on human fat, because that would work. And like, yeah, the magic oven where you put fatty meat into it and then the fat runs it, because we all know with barbecues, when the fat drips off and it spatters against the hot coals and then it bursts into flames, you can totally keep a fire going that way.
Yeah. Why instead of cremating people, why not use them as fertilizer? Like, you put blood, fish, and bone down on your soil as fertilizer. So do that with humans, and it's a nice sustainable.
Well, I've never really spoken with it about it. They call it natural burial. I would quite like, when I'm dead and the coroner's satisfied I'm dead, I want him to make an incision in my carotid artery to, like, say, okay, he's definitely not coming back now. I've made an incision there, and then. But
the thing about the wicking experiment in 1998 is that he wrapped the pig in a gas. I assume this is American, so it means petrol-soaked cloth.
Yeah, well, that's what you said, because earlier on you were saying that it was soaked in petrol.
Yeah,
the cloth.
Yeah.
So this is just the same experiment, but the Yanks are talking about it.
Yeah.
But this is where I found out, like, later on, from actually somebody you know, Hemi, that you're not allowed to be buried in a burlap sack in this country. It has to be a minimum of like a cardboard coffin.
Oh, right.
So, yeah, because like Jews, their burials are you wrap up the deceased in
muslin, isn't it?
In cloth.
I think it's specifically muslin, isn't it?
Is it? I don't know what cloth it is.
Wrap Jews in Muslims?
Yeah. When the Jew dies, they have to wrap the corpse in a muslin.
Yeah.
And then they bury it with, like, you know, the Jew inside the Muslim's body. So.
How about this one then? Actually, I'll read the full story because I know they've got the full story in me big book of horrific things that have happened to people. Where's this? Saw this one. Right, so Don Gio Maria Bertolli, which is a man's name apparently, Italian priest who caught fire during his devotions, was one of the few victims to survive his ordeal for several days. The case was reported by Dr. Battaglia, the surgeon who attended him, in a journal from Florence dated October 1776. The priest, who had been travelling about the country, arrived in the evening at the house of his brother-in-law and asked to be shown to his apartment. Once inside, he requested a handkerchief to be placed between his shirt and his shoulders. Devout priests often wore shirts made of scratchy horsehair for penance, and the handkerchief served to relieve any discomfort and distraction during devotions. He was left alone to pray. A few minutes later, an extraordinary noise was heard from the room, with the cries of the priest ringing out in agony. The people of the house rushing into the room found Bertolli extended on the floor, surrounded by a light flame that receded as they approached and finally vanished. On the following morning, the patient was examined by Dr. Battaglia, who found the skin of the right arm almost entirely detached and hanging from the bone. Don't they call that sleeving or something, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you get
Sorry,
your arm stuck in a machine, it can sleeve your arm, can't it?
Oh no!
Yeah.
no.
Any kind of crushing injuries, they have to. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
That.
Despite having eaten, I'm completely full. Whenever you keep talking about Mr. Bertolli or Friar Bertolli, I just think, oh yeah, olive oil. And I just thought to myself, didn't they used to make like lamps with asbestos wicks and olive oil?
Did they?
Well, the asbestos wick's never gonna burn up.
Yeah.
And then you just put some sort of fat inside the lamp, and is olive oil flammable enough? Let me find out.
I don't think so. From the shoulders, from the shoulders to the thighs.
Olive oil.
So from the shoulders to the thighs, the skin was equally injured. On the right hand, the part that most seriously burned, putrefaction had already begun. Despite immediate treatment, the condition worsened. The patient complained of burning thirst and was horribly convulsed. His stool was described as full of putrid and bilious matter.
What is bilious matter?
I don't know.
Oh,
and like yes, bile, stomach bile.
Oh, all right. So it's very green and slimy. Yes, you can make olive oil lamp.
Okay, then. He was exhausted by continual vomiting, accompanied by fever and delirium. He died on the 4th day in a state of unconsciousness. Dr. Battaglia could not find a trace of any known disease. A horrifying aspect to the priest's condition that even before he died, the odour of the putrescent flesh. Fucking hell, that's a bad word. It's all R's and S's and C's. It's a fucking nightmare. Flesh had become insufferable. Dr. Battaglia said he saw worms crawling from the body onto the bed and that the nails had fallen off the fingers. Oh, fucking hell, this is gruesome, isn't it?
Worms?
That is not very nice.
Worms? Yeah.
Not maggots.
It must be maggots. Yeah, I
think unless they're talking about tapeworms.
Oh, yeah, it could be. Well, it could be like the parasites leaving the body because they're now dead.
When the priest was first brought to Dr. Battaglia, he said that all he remembered was a stroke like the blow of a cudgel on the right hand. At the same time, he saw a lambent flame attach itself to his shirt, which was immediately reduced to ashes, although his cuffs remained untouched. The handkerchief had been placed on his shoulders was astonishingly also intact. His trousers too were unharmed, but although not a hair on his head was singed, his cap was totally consumed. There had been no fire in the room. An oil lamp, however, had been full of oil, was completely dry, and the lamp's wick was reduced to a cinder. So there's some weird stuff going on there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty fucking gruesome, that, isn't it?
Yeah. Clint Eastwood indoors has the same suspicion that I do, that these spontaneous combustions... I'll read what he says. Spontaneous human combustion, if real, is likely caused by the government testing extremely high frequency. Well, say the government. We don't know what sort of paramilitary organisation does this.
Did they have those in 1776 then, I bet?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because I will go on to say something here. High frequency EHF weapons, devices to unsuspect human population. Because, yeah, I suspect microwaves are causing these sorts of things, especially in the unusual patterns they do it. So... we covered like unusual stately homes which had these tiny copper fireplaces, and they're very drafty, and these castles and stuff where you just go, well, it's not practical to live there. And people say, oh, well, they had braziers in there, and the braziers would give you some heat, but it's a tiny amount of heat. And the fireplaces, they're not fireplaces, they were electrical conduits. And the speculation was that on all these spires and things where we have these weather vanes, what it used to be was they were made of gold, and they had a bath of liquid mercury, and that would draw electricity out of the ether and put it into the building, and then you'd have electrical energy which you could use for lighting and heats and all other things they did prior to the mad flood. So what if, as a consequence of this technology, sometimes that wireless electricity gets channeled into someone and causes them to spontaneously combust?
So,
just a thought.
how about this one then? On an October evening in the late 1950s, 19-year-old Maybelle Andrews was dancing with her boyfriend Billy Clifford in a London discotheque. Discotheque? Fucking hell.
Go to the discotheque.
Oh dear, burn, baby, burn, disco inferno. Suddenly she burst into flames. The fire blazed from her back and chest, enveloping her head and igniting her hair. Her boyfriend and some of the bystanders tried to beat out the flames, but they could not save her. She died on the way to hospital. According to Clifford's testimony, I saw no one smoking on the dance floor. There were no candles on the tables, and I did not see a dress catch fire from anything. I know it sounds incredible, but it appeared to me that the flames burst outwards as if they originated within her body. The other witnesses agreed. The final verdict was death by misadventure caused by a fire of unknown origin. So could these people be like... Is there any way that you can like sweat petrol or something like that?
Like I said, it could be a genetic disorder. Yeah. Some weird thing. I've just looked up spontaneous human combustion survivors on Google.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
And at the top, it says Frank Baker, who served in the US Army in Vietnam, is the only known survivor of the unexplained phenomenon known as spontaneous human combustion. And right underneath that is top 10 cases of spontaneous human combustion survival.
Oh, well, survival, they survive. I think the longest is about 11 days or something I saw while I was having a look. Got another one here because I saw one earlier when they go, well, why is it people don't burst into fire on the street? So here's another one. Former actress Miss Olga Worth Stevens, age 75, of Dallas, Texas, was sitting in a parked car in October 1964 when witnesses saw her burst into flames. She was fatally burned before anyone could come to her rescue. Firemen said the automobile was not damaged and contained nothing that could have started the fire. Oh, Interdimensional Lizard says supposedly alcohol levels in sweat correlate with blood alcohol levels. Right, I'll be back in a minute, boys.
So anyway, back onto the subject of big tits. It turns out, looking at a nice pair of breasts, the more you do it, the longer you'll live. So what is it about breasts that... Because I don't know about you, but when I'm looking at like a pair of tits... And especially if there's a woman like smirking at me because she knows I'm looking, it just makes me feel very happy. I'm not sure why.
Prefer smaller, perky ones.
I do like perky ones. I like big ones. And the thing is, it's like different women have different tits. Like you know, you don't expect like massive tits on stick figure. And when you do, they're either fake or they're very rare. But normally, what happens is like the more children a woman's had, the bigger her breasts become and the wider her hips become. I like looking at women's bums as well. I'm just going to be all scientific here. It's like, yes, I'm assessing their ability to bear children by looking at the width of their buttocks and.
Yeah, you other brothers can't deny.
Yeah, that's right. You know, but by staring at a woman's eye, I'm like, you know, subconsciously assessing her suitability for breeding, and.
Right, thanks for that extremely informative discussion on
spontaneous human erections.
Yeah. How about this one then? In the 19th century, the temperance movement went full metal jacket on alcoholism, with a barrage of pamphlets and papers, many of which weren't exactly temperate in their treatment. The movement's authors seem to enjoy weaving the most horrible of SHC horror stories into a whirlwind of anti-alcohol, pro-religion propaganda to dissuade topers. Topers? Don't know what a toper is.
Wait, how's that spelled? TULPA?
TOPERS.
TOP.
From imbibing. Scare 'em all sober, essentially. Drake's previously cited
Bonkers.
discourse is full of vivid. So here's the sort of thing that the temperance movement would say. The remains of her body in the most horrid condition at the distance of 4 feet from the bed was a heap of ashes, in which could be distinguished the legs and arms untouched. Between the legs lay the head, the brain, of which together with half the posterior parts of the cranium, the whole chin had been consumed. 3 fingers were found in the state of a coal. The rest of the body was reduced to ashes, which, when touched, left on the fingers a fat, fetid moisture.
I think I found the source of this as well. Apparently, it's back to Charles Dickens.
I was
In the 1850s, the writer ignited great interest in SHC
because
by
there's a
using it to
spontaneous
kill off a
combustion in one of his
character.
stories, isn't there?
In
Yeah.
Bleak House.
Yeah.
A character named Crook was an alcoholic, following the belief at the time that spontaneous combustion was caused by excessive amounts of alcohol in the body. American prohibitionists helped spread this notion as they denounced the evils of alcoholism.
Yeah, but if that were true, then surely like places like Poland and Russia would be rife with stories of spontaneous combustion.
Maybe they are,
Hey,
and they just don't tell us.
well, yeah. You know what? I'm going to look at that now. Spontaneous human combustion in Russia.
Soviet Russia, alcohol drinks you.
Don't you just love Snopes? I mean, Wikipedia. Spontaneous human combustion, SHC, is the pseudo-scientific concept of the combustion of a living or recently deceased human body without an apparent external source of ignition. Well, it's not pseudo-science because they are found without an apparent external source of ignition. That's why it's so specific.
Wikipedia is one of the big tech companies involved with leftist agendas, so you can't trust it.
Yeah, exactly.
I like this, right? I'm doing a search for spontaneous human combustion in Russia. The very second result is first Irish case of death by spontaneous combustion.
The Irish. Yeah, there's a lot of Irish people catching fire, isn't there? So it's got to have something to do with alcoholism, isn't it?
Oh, okay. So there is a story of spontaneous human combustion in, and this is line witness. This is from 1990. So this is the 11th of the 11th, 1990. Interesting date. So the shepherd Bisin Mamemev, together with an assistant, was engaged in driving sheep. At some point, the shepherd ran out of strength and decided to stop. Since Bizen didn't know the area well, he had no idea he had chosen a place to rest. He had no idea that he had chosen a place to rest. Oh, popularly called the Devil's Den. In the protocol of the case, it was stated, the shepherd's assistant left for a short time, after which he found the completely burned body of the shepherd Memimiev, who was laying defenseless on the ground with no signs of resisting the fire. Due to the sharp jarring of the body, it can be concluded that the death was instantaneous. Investigators cannot determine the cause of the fire.
I've got to read you some of this fucking Snopes shit and that they're putting on here. Right, so two fellas... Oh, go on then.
It seemed that the fire broke out inside the person. This is evidenced by burns of internal organs. The fact that underwear suffered more from the fire than the outerwear. In addition, the armful of hay on which the shepherd was sitting turned out to be completely intact. Later, a combine harvester and tractor driver burned down in a field near the Devil's Lair for an unknown reason. Oh, I think I need to have a look at this Devil's Den, Russia.
So anyway, two completely on the up and up guys, Nicol and Fisher, had a look into this. According to Nicol and Fisher's investigation, Hobbit, you listen to this now. Nearby objects often remain undamaged because fire tends to burn upward, but burns laterally with some difficulty. Because you know fires, they just go straight up, don't they, Hobbit?
Yes.
Well, there's some merits to that, because a lot of people try and start fires and are just completely unsuccessful.
Yeah.
They can detect the source and what accelerant was used and everything. Yeah, maybe.
But the investigators described how such materials help retain melted fat. But how many of these things are the chair was untouched? I mean, what part of the chair was untouched do they find the most difficult to get? It is. Like some of this.
It's weird with these stories where it's just like, oh yeah, here's like a cigarette, here's a candle, here's some hay.
How about this?
All
Well,
these
highly
inflammable objects which are
Nickel
on
and Fish's
fire.
investigation, which looked at cases in the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries, showed that burned bodies were close to plausible sources for the ignition. Candles, lamps, fireplaces, and so on. Such sources were often omitted from published accounts of these incidents, presumably to deepen the aura of. Presumably, why are they fucking presuming? They're supposed to be telling us shit, dickheads. So fire burns upwards, and the police just wanted a mystery.
Yeah, because I'm looking at my stove now, and the flames are just going up. They're not spreading to the sides to consume more fuel.
Yeah, fire just goes up.
That's it. Every time I start a fire, I have a chimney fire.
Oh, there's a 1981. Henry Thomas, a 73-year-old man, was found burned to death in the living room of his council house on the Rassau estate in Ebbie Vale, South Wales in 1980. His entire body was incinerated, leaving only his skull and a portion of each leg below the knee. The feet and legs were still clothed in socks and trousers. Half of the chair which he'd been sitting in was also destroyed. Police forensic officers decided the incineration of Thomas was due to the Wick Effect. I mean, I don't doubt there are the Wick Effect happens. This stuff happens where people set fire to their clothes, and it can happen. But not all of these cases are the Wick Effect, are they? And I think that's the real hard part, isn't it?
There are some of these cases which can't be explained by he got drunk, had a lit cigarette, and it caused the fire. Or he did a burp and it had fumes in it, and the fumes.
Nobody said that. That was just me spitballing, trying to come up with some sort of thing. You spitballing, but the prohibition propaganda that if you drink enough, you'll fart and burp and you'll catch on fire. Yeah,
because I do burp a lot when I've been drinking.
Obviously, you remember spontaneous human combustion from Red Dwarf, don't you, Hobbit? Where the mayor of Warsaw spontaneously exploded in the 16th century. You remember that one when Lister has.
Is that where his hallucinations come to life?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Wait, is this the Waxworks one?
No, it's Series 1, Hobbit. It's Confidence and Paranoia. You really ought to watch Confidence and Paranoia, Hobbit. It's the best episode. It's one of my favourite episodes of Red Dwarf.
There's a lot of episodes which are similar. Like, there's one where that beastie sucks out all the negative emotions. So, Lister loses his fear, Rimmer loses his anger, Crichton loses his guilt, and the cat becomes
Lister Rimmer forms a group called Clitoris. I found
for understanding or something.
It's chameleonic life forms, and that's about all I can remember.
Found that series was better earlier. I think it got worse as their budget got bigger.
Yes. Yeah, this is I say that a lot about the Red Dwarf effect. I think giving people not enough money it makes you
more creative, basically.
Yes. Yeah, because you have to be more creative to get around it. I think it's one of the reasons why the film industry is so bereft of creation, isn't it? Because
but also the film industry.
When you can put anything on the screen, it's kind of that kind of choice is almost paralyzing, isn't it?
But also with the film industry, what they got now is it's almost like McDonald's. Like, they got a formula, they stick to it, They churn out the same shit every day, and it makes them some money. And you
Just
don't want to
reboots and wokeism these days.
yeah, you don't want to be too risky with it. Obviously, you need to push the agenda that white men are evil and women can do everything, especially black women. Sorry, coloured women. And if
Coloured
anyone's
women,
listening to
you
this,
fucking racist, Hobbit.
if anyone's listening to this future, I
They're women of
apologise.
colour. Fucking hell, Hobbit. Check your privilege.
Women of colour
for
have dark
my
skin.
co-hosts.
Yeah.
Saying
women
that
have blackface.
I do apologise for my co-host calling women of colour. We understand in the future this is going to be politically incorrect, and that's why I'm referring to them as coloured women.
Yeah.
But anyway, point being with the Hollywood films is they're formulaic.
Did you find out what a
they don't take
topa was,
risks.
Hobbit?
No, I asked you how was it spelled.
Yeah, that's how it's spelled.
Oh, right, topa. Right, because I need to.
Wasn't it topper?
No, it's it's 1p. I mean, it could be a misspelling because it is a journalist writing it.
A topa is an American term. It's someone who drinks alcoholic beverages, especially to excess.
Oh, okay.
So it's not really, it's not English.
Yeah. Well, I think actually it kind of is, but I think the Yanks use a lot of stuff that passed out of our parlance.
Yeah, like faucet.
Full.
And,
autumn.
To drink heavily.
You know autumn, which is fall. We used to use that word and we stopped using it.
Full. Is it the way that we used to use aluminum and we changed it to aluminium, and the Americans still call it aluminum, yet we give them shit for it?
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that because we decided that all materials were going to be like uranium, aluminium, magnesium.
Yeah, it's like a kind of standardization process going on there.
Yeah, and we didn't give the Yanks the memo so we could laugh at them.
That's it.
Did you know that a lot of American English, the way it's spelled, like colour is without the U.
Color.
Yeah, and it was from I don't know which one it was. One of the presidents tried to simplify the spelling of words because the country had so much illiteracy. It didn't work.
Angus McPlop, it's ER, not activity.
So top is Old English from top. Top, the highest part, summit, crest, tassel, tuft. Amazing, right?
Yeah.
When you're saying top off a drink, it's like, oh, but you haven't finished your drink, but I'm going to top it off. And so a topper or a toper is from 1655.
Oh, so it is
I've got to drink heavily, 1650s of unknown origin, perhaps ultimately from Italian toppa, T-O-P-P-A, done. A word signifying acceptance of a bet.
Well, it could also be like the word top. Like, where does the word top come from? Top is one of those words like the and a, which is just, it's like...
There's an even older reference to spontaneous combustion in the novel Redburn, not Redbum, Redburn. It's why do they do it in fucking italics? Because it looks like it says Redbum. In the novel Redbum by Herman Melville, published in 1849, a sailor, Miguel Savida, is consumed by animal combustion while in a drunken stupor on the return voyage from Liverpool to New York.
Living la vida loca.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's happened to any
there's a film called
channel swimmers, because they cover themselves in like goose fat, don't they?
Yeah. There's a 2020 American black comedy horror called Spontaneous. High school students at Covington High it begin to inexplicably explode.
All right.
So I've got bizarre cases of survivors. Survivors of you're not feeling hot, are you, Hobbit?
I am feeling hot. I think the Vindaloo is infusing in my body.
Oh
The
God,
Delhi
Hobbitt's gonna-
belly is the real cause.
Yeah.
Yes. Not enough is spoken about the dangers of Delhi belly.
I like a good Vindaloo. I'm jealous.
Yeah. Well, this one is, they weren't pulling any punches with it. It was hot.
I like a bit of lemon rice with it. That kind of offsets it a bit.
Oh, well, I had coconut rice, and they gave me a salad, which I wolfed down first of
Oh,
all.
how about this one then? Our next weird case comes from 1822 in the countryside of France. One summer day, a local man called Retino was out in the countryside of the village of Loingen.
Show me this link. I'll read it. Come on.
You're going to read this one.
Save your voice for a bit, and pop the link in, and I will give it the old Frenchy one too.
The good. You got to go down to where the man's finger was on fire. So you need to go down to. It's just above the picture of a hand on fire.
Right. So there's
the paragraph
on
above,
fire.
Because the other bit's the monk again.
Oh yeah, that's about a monk.
Yeah.
And, the countryside of France. On a summer day, a local man called Renato was out in the countryside. Renato, that's a weird name.
Yeah.
I've never heard of someone called Renato.
Is that the long form of Rene, is it?
Renato. I'm going to ask my mum about that one.
Rene.
Renato.
Has he got the portrait of the fallen Madonna with the big boobies?
I don't know, but anyway.
That's an LLO reference.
He's in the village of Loignan, where he allegedly felt a sudden sharp pain in his right index finger. He casually glanced to it, and his eyes widened in terror. He realized his finger was actually on fire. When he waved his fingers around, the whole hand ignited. He wildly battled his hand. He batted his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, he batted his hand at his pants.
Is this his excuse for masturbating? It's not my fault. My hand caught fire. I was just trying to put it out.
Have you ever done that trick where you kind of cup your hand over a lighter, like let the gas go into your hand and then light it and open your hand?
No, but I did overfill a Zippo the other day, and I did the fucking Laurel and Hardy bit with my thumb.
So, he liar pants on fire. He battered
liar hand on fire.
Well, he battered his pants, and then his pants caught on fire, right? And setting them on fire as well. And his left hand erupted into flames when he clapped his hands together. Now in a panic, the man dashed as far as he could.
If you're on fire and you know it, clap your hands. If you're on fire and you know it, clap your hands. If you're on fire and you know it, and you really, really know it, only fire on fire, clap your hands.
He screamed at his wife to bring a bucket of cold water in which to douse the fire, but plunging his hands into the water failed to stop the flames. That's not a chemical reaction. The only way... Now, there is white phosphorus in the body, and that's something I wanted to mention about earlier when we talk about pyrogens. That the weird way we get energy in the body is this chemical called ATP. I can't remember what the AT stands for, but it's phosphase.
Adenosine triphosphate.
Yeah, and we get through, the body uses 71 kilograms of phosphorus in a day. Now, obviously, you don't eat 71 kilograms of phosphorus in a day, but it's that your body recycles it so many times that if it didn't, that's like how much phosphorus you'd need.
It's part of Krebs cycle, is it?
Yeah. And it's like, you put glucose into ATP and energy comes out. All right, but what's the energy? How does that make things go? It just does. How? Moving on. But how? And that's it. There's literally Krebs cycle, citric acid cycle, oxygen goes in, glucose goes in, ATP, get energy, things move. Wow. It doesn't make sense. So anyway, he put his hands into the water. It didn't stop the flames, which makes me think about phosphorus and white phosphorus, where if you douse it in water, it just burns hotter. He then tried shoving his hands into wet mud and even tried milk, but this didn't work either. By the time he had touched a crowd of curious onlookers milling about, one of these gawking spectators then brought him some holy water, and it seemed to do the trick. Oddly, although his clothes where he had touched them were burned, his hands were remarkably intact, suffering only minor burns considering how long them had been ablaze. That's bad English. The curious case appears in 1822 in the French medical journal Nouvel Journal de Médecine, Chirurgie, Pharmacie, Volume 15. So, New Journal of Medicine, Surgery, Pharmacy, Volume 15. And it's an odd historical account that doesn't seem to have ever been solved. Again, I think this is a form of telekinesis where it results in fire. Well, these cases so far have most... Yeah, because how is it that you got these fire around your hands? I reckon, like, again, with that Chinese...
Well, if you put an accelerant on your hand and light it, you do have, like, a few seconds till it burns through the accelerant before it starts burning your hand.
Yeah,
usually it just burns it off and it's gone.
But his hands weren't burnt. That's the thing. His hands
light burns. They did say light burns. Minor burns.
No, it says intact.
Suffering only minor burns considering how long them had been ablaze.
Oh, his clothes where he had touched them were burned.
Oh, his clothes were, yes. Yeah.
His hands were remarkably intact, suffering only minor burns, considering how long them had been ablaze. Right. Well, okay, that makes sense, because if you're near, like, a source of heat for a long time, it is going to burn stuff. But that means, like, the fire wasn't...
But I assume, like, minor burns would be just like it was red and sore.
Yeah, like you've been scalded or something, or sunburn.
Maybe they mean minor burns, like when you set light to a child.
It's weird though that holy water would do that it seemed...
I did find a story about a baby that had it. It was an Indian baby, of course.
Oh yeah, India's weird. You know, I reckon, like, people say how spiritual India is. Like, yeah, they're very spiritual, but, like, you know, the Temple of Doom.
They're spiritual in the same way that Aleister Crowley was spiritual.
Yeah, like everyone that's in Bohemian Grove, they're very spiritual. It doesn't mean they're good. There's a lot of demons in India.
You mentioned Bohemian Grove, so our next episode is going to be why Hobbit was assassinated.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but I don't have any evidence which would lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton, so I'm all right.
And still, Alex Jones is still alive and breathing, so yeah.
While these cases so far have been met with horror and desperate panic, there is another case from 1855 that appeared in the American Journal of the Medical Sciences, Volume 17, and is notable for just how calm the victim was. In January of that year, a professor at the University of Nashville by the name of James Hamilton was doing an experiment which he was outside making atmospheric measurements. As he went about checking his barometer, thermometer, and hydrometer...
He had all the ometers, didn't he?
He felt a sudden acute pain in the thigh of his left leg. Why don't you say his left thigh? At first he tried to ignore it, but it got steadily more intense until the pain was nearly unbearable. When he
they get paid by the word, Hobbit. You know this by now. Surely you know this.
Yeah, it's as opposed to the thigh of his left arm.
Yeah.
Or the thigh of his chicken.
Yeah.
When he noticed that there was a flame emanating from the point of pain... Sorry. It got steadily more intense till the pain was nearly unbearable. When he examined his legs, he then noticed that there was a flame emanating from the point of pain, right above the cloth of his pants. Perhaps it was...
He followed through then, had he? Touched cloth, had he, of it?
Yeah, I think pants is their term for trousers.
Yeah.
Perhaps it was his scientific inquisitiveness that guided his actions then, because he calmly cupped his hands around the flame in order to cut off its oxygen supply, and it went out, and the pain subsided greatly. He then went about inspecting his leg. He found upon the skin a dry spot about the size of a dime.
That's about the same size as 5 pence, I think, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know. I thought a dime was like a 10p piece, or is that a nickel?
Oh, I got no idea.
Yeah, the monopoly money doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, he found skin at a dry spot about the size of a coin. that seemed more like a scrape than a burn. Curiously, a hole was found to have been burned through his drawers. His chest of drawers?
Was he wearing ladies' bloomers or something? Because halfway down his pants were halfway down his thigh.
So, yeah, he's got some drawers in a perfect circle where the pain had been, yet the underwear between the skin and the outer clothing remained strangely untouched.
That's a fart one, that is, isn't it?
That chest of drawers. Politically correct comedian from Fast Show.
Well, I don't know. I think he was wearing ladies' bloomers. I think that's God punishing him, isn't it? Well, I'm going to set you on fire, you bleeding tranny weirdo.
Oh, speaking of which, we have to talk about the very Fortean comedian who actually was funny.
Oh, God, yes.
Fell down the stage.
We'll talk about that. I think I'll play it too.
Yeah. Curiously, so anyway, the hole was in his pants, which is trousers. Not in his underwear, which is bloomers or whatever he's wearing, and
whatever the fuck he was wearing, that was all the way down his thigh. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Knee-length underpants.
It was all very.
Does he shoot himself a lot of it? Is that why he needs knee length?
Is it long johns? But anyway, it's all very weird. But the professor could see no need for medical attention. Kind of went back to his experiment just as calmly went back to his experiment just as calmly as he had dealt. Right.
Was he very calm? Is that what they're saying?
Journalists, if you're listening to me, right, you may think alliteration is great because it bumps up your word count. Read out what you've written, and if it sounds like gibberish, you need to write it. But would you speak this in a normal conversation? No, unless you're schizophrenic or you're in a delirium. So let's try and repeat this, right, because it's making my brain hurt.
Yeah.
Curiously, professors. All right, so he saw no need for medical attention and calmly went back to his experiment just as calmly as he had dealt with the spontaneous flame that had spewed from his leg.
Well, it didn't spew, it just kind of appeared.
Again,
well, it didn't spew from his leg, did it? I don't know.
Journalist, I think spawned would have been a better term than spewed because it wasn't emanating from his leg.
Wound, it did, because there was a thing, dry patch the size of a dime, wasn't there?
The strange wound would take longer to heal than would be expected. What? How long does a burn take to heal anyway? But the professor made a full recovery and was considered by the journal to be a reliable case of partial spontaneous combustion.
Yeah.
There have been more modern cases of this as well. In 1974, a door-to-door salesman by the name of Jack Angel allegedly woke up in his mobile home in Savannah, Georgia.
Shouldn't he be a detective with a name like that?
Yeah, well...
Jack Angel.
I'm here to sell you private investigations. So anyway, Savannah, Georgia in the United States. Oh, as opposed to Savannah in Georgia, part of South Ossetia. So anyway, he woke up in the United States to find his hands, arms, back and chest covered with burns. This was very odd, really. As he was not a smoker, there was no source of flame, and nothing around him was burned, including his clothes, which were unscathed. He claims the doctors told him whatever had happened to him did so internally, and had originated from his left arm. The case gets a little suspicious when in later years he had changed the story to say that he had been sprayed by scalding hot water as he was fixing the mobile home's water pressure. But then in an episode of the TV series, That's Incredible, he reverted back to his original term of spontaneous human combustion. What is going on here? In 1985, we all have the case of decorated Vietnam War veteran Frank Baker, who said he had his strange experience while on a fishing trip with some buddies. He said that as he was just sitting there on the sofa chatting away in their cabin, his body suddenly burst into flames for no reason at all. They were able to put the flames out, and Baker said, "I had no idea what was taking place on my body. None. We were getting ready for fishing and sitting on the couch. Everything was great. Pete was sitting next to me. We were having a hell of a time." Making it even stranger is that when doctors examined him, he was informed that the fire seemed to have burned from the inside out. The case was featured on an episode of the Science Channel's Unexplained Files, which is pretty strange indeed. What? that a show called Unexplained Files would have a case of spontaneous human combustion. Is that seems to me like, hey, is a paranormal investigation show, and it's investigating something paranormal. Oh, that's pretty strange.
Oh, actually, that reminds me. I watched a bit of Fact or Fiction Beyond Belief the other day. We made it up. It's not real.
Oh yeah.
The missus had never watched it. The missus had never watched it before, and we watched an episode together.
Oh, Clint Eastwood endorsed says he has a degree in exercise physiology, and the Krebs cycle and ATP never made complete sense to me. Talk about Luc Montagnier, also if you get the chance. Now, I wonder if something with the ATP and the energy and stuff like that, like they say taste and smell, is you've got these ion channels in your nerves, and like when certain vibrations happen from the food molecules that touch it, you taste certain things. And the ion channels like when you eat chili, it activates the ion channels which signal pain from heat, even though it's not heat, temperature, but the chili causes the same burning sensation because it activates the same ion channels. So I can understand.
It could be where Krebs cycle goes wrong. Instead of splitting the ATP molecule, it splits the atoms and causes like a mini nuclear explosion inside the body.
Well, the other thing, like for example, there's that bloke, they call him the Iceman, and he says he got this technique where he can heat up his body by doing some breathing exercises.
Wim Hof?
Yeah, that's the guy. And I'm wondering, is that a case of controlled spontaneous combustion? Because he's not getting hot to the point where he bursts into flames, but he's getting hot to the point where it's like, yeah, I'm just going for a naked run in Siberia, then I'm going to go swim through this ice lake, and I'm like being sprayed down with frigid water because the Russians are interested, and I'm not dying of hypothermia.
Something about heat shock proteins and cold shock proteins, and that's supposed to be really good for you. That.
I don't know. Again, I'm thinking of that the Chinese monk who's proving chi by channeling his hands towards this ball of newspaper and it bursts into flames. I think there's like some sort of, maybe it's electrical, maybe it's some other form of energy, but the human body can manifest this energy in ways which isn't chemical. And I think that's what explains poltergeist activity, because it happens most often with, oh God, my toe hurts.
Oh, have you seen this thing about DNA teleportation?
Before you tell me what it is it something to do with the DNA is a transmitter and receiver of information, not just through RNA, messenger RNA, but with that it almost works like a laser beam. It sends out pulses of biophotons.
This is that. I've just having a look into that Luc Montagnier guy. So DNA teleportation is a claim that DNA produces electromagnetic signals measurable when highly diluted in water. This signal can allegedly be recorded, transmitted electronically, and re-emitted on another distant pure water sample, where DNA can replicate through polymerase chain reaction, despite the absence of the original DNA in the new water sample. The idea was introduced by the Nobel laureate Luc Montagnier in 2009. It is a similar in principle to water memory, a concept popularised by Jacques Benaviste in 1988. No independent research
homeopathy.
What's that?
Oh yeah, that is.
Homeopathy is water memory.
It's also a load of wank.
Well, water is like a liquid crystal, and it's strange. It's not really well understood, despite being the most important solvent in the thing. DNA can send and receive electromagnetic signals. Apparently its helix structure is very good at receiving it from the edge on, and from point on it can send and transmit. It can transmit information from it. So I always like to say, all right, what is it? Okay, you got skin cells, you got stem cells in the body, and then it's like, right, the tissue next to me is kidney. So
general, if you want to read about DNA
Okay, I will do. So yeah, I can understand like stem cells. They like become the tissue what they're around, but what's in it which says right, your connective tissue, your capillaries, you're no longer a kidney, you're gonna be skin, or you're gonna be the large intestine. How does that come about? And
Yeah, that's DNA. It's basically like a little mini computer. It's codes within codes within codes. And each cell in your body is like a little computer.
well, yeah, I know. They say, oh, all the information is contained within the molecules itself, but I'm saying that no, the information comes from an outside source, and apparently the Indians say that like there's an ethereal, not akashic record. There's an ethereal skeleton, an electric skeleton, which the tissues all grow on. So there's like an ethereal body, and
But haven't they done those experiments where the body actually loses weight when the person dies immediately?
Yeah, there's like their body doesn't weigh as much as the living body. There's something to do with the soul, but more importantly than that, there's the fact that people get things like phantom pain syndrome, or phantom limb syndrome, where it's not just your nerve endings
they
are
get phantom
damaged.
pain. You were right the first time. They do get pain. So some people have itching, don't they? And some people have pain, don't they?
It's like if a limb is chopped off, and you'll perpetually feel that pain of it being chopped off.
I don't know, because
No. They feel. I think what it is
they feel like an itch in a hand that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, an itch in like a ghost limb. So that's what they.
If you're circumcised, does this mean you have like an itch in your cock, which is your phantom foreskin?
I don't know.
I'm not trying to be funny there. I'm be like, what's it like?
Don't know. I'm not American or Jewish, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, the Koreans are they popularized circumcision. They're like, Americans do that. We do it too now.
So
I heard the word schmuck means discarded foreskin.
Do you know NICE actually talk about it? You know NICE, the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence.
Oh yeah, what they talk about phantom.
They call it neuropathic pain, which occurs as a result of damage to neural tissue, includes phantom limb pain. So they're just saying it's brain injury.
Because the neuropathy department deals.
What
with
the fuck? Hold on. Due to diabetic complications, chronic excessive alcohol intake, HIV infection, chemotherapy, idiopathic neuropathy. Trauma central plane. Fucking hell. The pain may occur in an area of sensory deficit and is sometimes accompanied by pain that is evoked by non-noxious stimulus. Allodynia.
Search me, mate.
They also so they another thing they call it is trigeminal neuralgia. Is also caused by dysfunction of neural tissue, but its management is distinct from other forms of neuropathy. But obviously they would say that, wouldn't they? Have a guess, Hobbit. Neuropathic pain may respond to opioid analgesics, Hobbit.
Wow, you're telling me a painkiller can work with neuropathy?
Yeah.
Amazing. So something which numbs the pain.
Well, they're just numbing the whole fucking lot, aren't they? And opening you up to demons.
You know, Uno's on the thing like saying that DNA is not an object; it's in the ether. So I said, what about that double helix structure? You know that story, like Watson and Crick. Doing like low doses of LSD, and that's where they visualized the double helix structure. And then other people have said, did they really, or did they like have access to?
In a bit more sensible way, if you speak to the amputeecoalition.org, they say unlike pain that is caused by trauma directly to a limb, PLP is thought to be caused by mixed signals from your brain or spinal cord. This is an important concept to consider because the treatment for this pain has differences from the treatment you would receive for other kinds of pain. New therapies for PLP involve trying to change signals from your brain or spinal cord.
No, I can't make head nor tail of that. Yeah. But yeah.
So anyway, this is quite interesting. So phantom limb pain refers to ongoing painful sensations that seem to be coming from the part of the limb that's no longer there. The limb is gone, but the pain is real. The onset of this pain often occurs soon after surgery. It can feel like a variety of things, such as burning, twisting, itching, or pressure. It's often felt in fingers or toes. It's believed that nearly 80% of the amputee population worldwide has experienced this kind of pain. So like 80% of amputees have felt phantom limb pain. The length of
there
time...
must be a way to train your brain. You've got the kind of neural plasticity, haven't you? So there must be a way to train your brain to experience it anymore.
I think that's what they're saying. But how about this bit? The length of time this pain lasts differs from person to person. It can last from seconds to minutes to hours to days. For most people, PLP diminishes in both frequency and duration during the first 6 months, but may continue to experience some level of these sensations for years.
Maybe with the circumcised because they do it to them when they're babies. That's why they don't have the phantom pain, but... There are Indonesians that do it to 13-year-old boys, and it's considered a rite of passage. Maybe they experience phantom foreskin. I don't know. And to go, Una was saying the caduceus. It was a double helix symbol that's known in ancient times.
Have you seen?
So that's why Watson and Crick with the DNA double helix. I suspect it's based on the caduceus. So yeah, you're probably right there.
You reckon that the mechanical elves gave Watson and Crick the knowledge of it when they were LSD?
I think they were using the story of we visualized it on LSD as to sort of like propaganda for LSD. I think what they really did was just like it's an ancient symbol, or maybe it could be that those did the ancient symbol. They also were under the influence.
Yeah, isn't there the old the medical symbol of the intertwined snakes?
The caduceus.
Yeah, is that what that is? Okay, yeah. I'm with you now.
So how about this then? What triggers phantom limb pain? Touch, urination or defecation, sexual intercourse, angina, cigarette smoking, changes in barometric pressure, herpes zoster. I don't know what herpes zoster is, and exposure to cold. It's weird that sexual intercourse is one of those, isn't it? You know, because a lot of people think that sexual intercourse is like a deeply like spiritual thing, don't they?
Basically, they're describing pretty much any kind of stimulant, really.
Yeah, any stimulus whatsoever. I don't know what herpes zoster is, anyway.
Is that the herpes that you get on your lip, or is that shingles?
I'm gonna.
Shingles is nerve inflammation.
Shingles is. Oh yes, it is shingles. You are correct. Oh, I hope you haven't had
because nerves can get viruses, and there's a kind of a cluster of axons that affect a kind of whole area of your skin. So, like, you get like a patch of pain. That's what it is.
All right. So,
as it said on the thing, what did it say? Herpes zoster shingles is an identified HIV indicator condition. Oof. Oh, is this something to do with like anybody who's had the vax now is like open to getting HIV, aren't they?
Well, they're encouraging people to get HIV tests even if you've been monogamous or haven't had sex in years, because everyone's getting HIV all of a sudden, and it's a mystery as to why that would be happening.
Or is this just another? There's another pandemic coming. It's HIV, and so we're going to impose mandates and shit again.
Oh, Christ on a bike. Herpes
I'm surprised they haven't done lockdowns because of obesity, because, I mean, that's a killer. The fatty bum
grim.
ones.
Oh, these pictures are grim. No. Ooh.
So anyway, now that we've got 24 minutes left,
Yeah. What do you want
do
to
you
do?
want
Do you want to change the tack?
Yes, the paranormal case of a female comedian. What is actually funny?
Yeah.
Oh, is this the one who
Guardian.
said, I've been vaccinated and I went here and Jesus loves me more, and then she fell and cracked her head? Is it that one?
Yeah, she. Oh, and apparently people are saying Bob Saget, and I think. Oh, actually, that's a bit too doxy, so I won't talk about that. But I know somebody who had a head injury, and like a month later, he was dead. Bob Saget had a head injury, and a month later, he's dead.
Where's that?
So keep watching and see if this woman ends up in the news in a month's time.
It's CTE, chronic trauma encephalopathy.
Have you got the link to the Twitter thing of it?
Oh, what the woman done bonked her head?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna type it on YouTube.
That's what happened to Rick Mail as
When
well.
you faint on stage after you brag about being vaccinated.
Oh no! I found it.
Yeah, but he lived for years after that.
I think it's about 5 years.
Yeah. No, I think it was about 10. I think he died. What was it? 2010, 2011. So. I watched the last thing he did. That One by One. It's a conspiracy thing. They're talking about depopulation and.
Right, so I'm going to play it for the audience. Keep talking. I'm not ready. I'll tell you when I'm ready.
I was looking on YouTube to try and find it. Oh, get the facts about the COVID-19 vaccine, and it's a bunch of people with like, there's a stethoscope around my neck, so you can trust me. So I'm looking on YouTube, and my recommendations. One of it's talking about the Prophet 5 synthesizer, and Aphex Twin uses it. Cool.
Right, so I'm going to play it.
There's a thing
now.
called Wordle. Like, what is this Wordle?
When you faint on stage after you brag about being vaccinated.
I don't care, but I want you to know, double vaxxed, booster, flu shot, and I'm going to be honest, I have the shingle shot too. And I still get my period. What? Yes! Traveled, went to Mexico twice, did shows, meet and greets, never got COVID. Clearly, Jesus loves me the most. Seriously. So nice. So nice.
You're not quite ready for the punchline yet, are we? Oh, there we go. There's the punchline.
So some people will say, well, the depression, like all she had.
It was dehydration. Interdimensionalism has been on Snopes, and it's dehydration.
Yeah,
she has done an interview with Dr. Drew recently, which you can find on YouTube.
Yeah.
So you might find more there. I haven't seen it, but
yeah, and so like. I remember one of the first responses. I was on stage and I hadn't eaten anything that day and had a Red Bull before I went on stage. But the other thing about
is he saying that Red Bull's bad for you then?
Well, maybe having like that's the only thing you've eaten that day, and then you go on stage and you got the excitement of like performing to an audience. That may have something to do with it. But here's the other thought, right? Maybe it's not like the irony of LOL, she's talking. And,
Sped said, "First time a woman made me laugh."
the comedic timing of it just seems it's such good timing. But that's what I'm saying.
I think there's a theory that she was meant to she was meant to fake fainting, but then she accidentally hit her head as well. So.
Well, like, guys, I was just pretending to faint. That bonk on my head where you hear my skull crack. I was just pretending. No, the bit about it is like, oh my god, I'm watching like a horse being rehoofed, and it's quite incredible, like the amount of like material they take off it's like knives and cutting into it, and like,
those ones that have like shit look like shoes when they leave them for too long.
Yeah, but so But the thing which I think is more important to talk about with this is that she took the Lord's name in vain, and then she was smited. Oh, funny enough, right? So I drive as a job, and I was waiting to turn right, busy junction, and I said, in the name of St. Christopher, patron saint of travellers, please can one of these people just, let me in, just stop, flash their lights, let me in. And as soon as I said amen, lights flashed, the guy stopped, and I was able to get through. I was like, I wasn't expecting my prayer to be answered that quick.
Oh shit, have you seen this? You know the guy from Ancient Aliens, he has a surprising connection to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
What, the Greek bloke?
Yeah, and I'll explain Pistry's Hobbit. But first, I thought you might want to see the top one. French brewery is using algae to produce blue beer. This sounds right up your street, Hobbit.
Yeah, that does sound interesting. That's. I know a hoof is like a nail and stuff, but it's like I'm watching. This is a well-behaved horse. Like I don't think I would be like sitting still or standing still if someone was doing this to my feet.
Speaking of which, I'm going to go piss like a racehorse. Back in a mo.
Hobbit, you're going to do Unexplained Mysteries?
Yeah, we'd do Unexplained Mysteries, and definitely not just like a farrier re-hoofing a horse. And he's using
what
looks
not blue,
like...
it's purple. Why are they saying it's blue? It's purple. What colour is that to you, Hobbit?
Is this one of those things where people go, I can't see it. I'll have to wait like 6 seconds or so for what you're looking at to show on the screen.
Oh shit, I'm on the wrong... Forget me. I'm on the wrong browser.
Ah, that's it. Oh, speaking of which, Frith thought it was really funny when we're doing karaoke, and I was just very straight doing, "Don't you forget about me."
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining.
I listened to it, and I was like, I didn't actually know what I was doing because...
So, here you go, Hobbit. It's going to come up in a second, the blue beer. But that's purple, that is. I don't care. That's not blue, is it?
It's bluey purple. That is a type of blue. So it's blue-green
I think
algae.
it's more the purple side.
Yeah, well, it's what's that purpley blue called? There's a name for it. Magenta? No,
that's bright pink.
Audience, tells me what the purpley blue is called.
She don't want to drink that. Look, she's taking it. It's made out of algae. So how would you use algae to make beer then, Hobbit?
Well, you don't. It's just they're using the algae as a colorant.
Oh, okay. But that's green.
Yeah, algae. Well, that's why I'm saying it's blue-green algae, because I'm thinking it's like cyanobacteria.
You're thinking of turquoise, but that's blue-purple.
Yeah, no. Right.
That's more an indigo. Is that an indigo, would you say?
Because I've had smoothie drinks where they've put like cyanobacteria in it, and that makes it gives it this turquoise color. So let me just have a look at this. Oxfordshire scientists report nuclear fusion breakthrough. That must be like the jet laboratory. Right. Well, in this still screenshot, it definitely looks blue, and I would say that is like a cyan blue, like you get with cyanobacteria. So what do they call this beer?
That does look more blue there.
Got to be more healthy than what they put in that WKD or Curacao.
I'll tell you what's awful though is cannabis beer. If you ever had it, it tastes foul.
Oh,
I've had chili beer though. I had that either.
I had a bottle of. I went to when Cyber Candy used to be in Birmingham when they used to sell all the American stuff, and it weren't as dear as that place in Oxford.
What you mean? The free places in Oxford?
Yeah, I bought a bottle of. I bought a bottle of sweet corn pop. Ugh. So imagine like drinking the water out of Green Giant. Only it's carbonated.
Yeah, so like a can of Green Giant that's been opened and left on the side for ages.
Yeah.
Isn't that just carbonated high fructose corn syrup?
God knows what it was, but it was disgusting, mate.
I mean, right. So the cannabis beer, right? What the idea behind it is like hops is related to cannabis or hemp,
Oh,
So-
Hobbit. You've
What
similar
if
stories based on this topic, Hobbit. World's oldest brewery has been discovered where?
In it is real. Yeah, right. Okay, sure. It's definitely not in Iraq or Egypt. It's Israel.
Yeah.
Oh, interdimensional lizard. It's like the black and gold dress. Hobbit says blue and Hemi says purple. Well,
Yeah.
it's blue.
Purple.
That was definitely purple. Then 6 men have blindness.
Yeah.
Get your eyes checked.
Hobbit's obviously blue-purple colourblind.
I've got no colour blindness.
You're blue-purple colourblind, Hobbit.
I have to get my
It's
eyes
just been
tested
demonstrated.
once a year. No,
I am colourblind.
Oh.
All races have equal merit and all that shit.
no,
How about this one? 170-year-old shipwreck beer smells like goat. Oh no!
yeah, I'd say that's probably gone off. Yes, Alphabet Cat. I say that beer. Well, they always say beer was first made in Egypt because they did the grains and the agriculture, and it's like you put some grains in water and it'll spontaneously ferment. And in fact, that sort of beer, that most ancient type of beer, is called a lambic, and it's still made in Belgium. It's quite sour. So what they often do is they mix fruit beers with it, so that the sour is complemented with fruity tastes.
How about this one then? Haunted doll which weeps tears of acid rescued from house fire.
Oh, that's I've seen. I prefer the Virgin Mary which cries, or the thing like the. Do you want to
see a video of the crying acid doll? I'll just put it on in the background.
Does it play like Cradle of Filth when it is crying? It's still there. Is it one of those dolls where they got like you can replace the water in it to make it cry?
It wheezes and poos water.
I'm just watching on his lights.
Yeah, so someone's just replaced the water thing in it with some acid.
Acid, yeah, the Joker from Batman.
Right.
Did it?
So you know that bit on the Fast Show where they had the Australian show called That's Incredible?
Yeah.
And they had the bloke with the everlasting biro in it.
Yeah.
And the guy says, "Well, how long have you had this biro for?" "About a month." "Oh, it stopped working." "Oh, well, it was everlasting up until then."
Oh, controversy surrounds the HMS Endeavour wreck discovery. Officials in Australia have announced the wreck has been conclusively identified, but others aren't so sure.
I think there's some controversy on how that word is pronounced.
Yeah, some
people say
controversy.
Controversy, and others say controversy.
Yeah. Mm. I think you say it different in different things, don't you?
Do you?
Do you want to know? Do you want to know the aliens guy? His connection to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
So his original role is that, in fact, of a bodybuilding promoter, a career that was inspired by a visit to his school by athletes from the International Federation of Bodybuilding and Fitness. Keen to become involved in the sport, but realising he'd never be competitive himself, he decided to focus on the organisational side of things. This inevitably saw him cross paths with the world's most famous bodybuilder, Arnold Schwarzenegger, at one of the Arnold Classic Professional Bodybuilding Expos. It wasn't.
I found out today Sean Connery was a bodybuilder.
Was he? Yeah, I think they used to back in the day. They used to be bodybuilders and then they go into acting for action films. Because wasn't Quint from Jaws? He was Olympic swimmer, weren't he, or something?
It was that other Bond, Timothy Dalton, George Lazenby. He was an Australian model, no acting experience.
Yes, he did have acting experience. He was the milk tray man.
Oh, okay. Oh, from milk tray to James Bond. That's
yeah. Well, you remember the milk tray? Do you not remember the milk tray adverts?
Yeah,
actually, it was James Bond, weren't it? So
I'm not taking the piss. I'm actually saying like Timothy Dalton. I can imagine him as the milk tray man. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about George Lazenby. George Lazenby was the milk tray man.
Who's Timothy Dalton? Was he a James Bond?
Yeah.
Living Daylights, wasn't that him?
Living Daylights, License to Kill. Did he only do 2?
He didn't do many.
Yeah.
I think he was very good.
I don't know. I quite like his ones. Oh, the ISS will end up at the bottom of the sea in 2031. By the way, lads.
Yeah, it's right. 2 reasons which I've seen speculated, which makes sense to me. They can't keep repairing it because you remember that woman what went mental and drilled a hole.
There's an ancient gold ring has been found in a shipwreck to depict Jesus, revealed by the Israel Antiques Authority.
ISS. So 2 things: 1, that hole can't get repaired. That bitch drilled in it, and 2, it stinks. It really smells bad.
Does it?
Yeah. Apparently, it smells
License to Kill, the only 15 rated Bond film. Well done, Alphabet Cat.
Well, they can't really air it out, can they?
Is that with the decompression chamber? Because I thought that was a bit grim. It didn't really feel like a Bond film.
Yes, that is the one with the because it wasn't, because it was like gritty Bond before. You can do gritty Bond that's actually watchable and entertaining. Yeah, and I think he proved that.
Yeah, I don't like Daniel Craig.
Yeah. Anyway, do you not trust the Israel Antiques Authority, Hobbit?
Well, it's not that I don't trust them. It's just that if I say that, then they'll arrest me.
You'll be charged with being anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Difference between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism.
Yeah. Remember that, it might save your life.
Pope Pius, all Christians are spiritually God's chosen people, therefore cannot be anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
And you killed Christ, so fuck you.
Did you know we've got a rogue stellar mass black hole, Hobbit?
What? Planet X?
Astronomers have discovered the first known stellar mass black hole, roaming solo through space. How low?
Solo.
Situated far out in the Milky Way, far out, man, in the Milky Way galaxy, around 5,150 light years away from Earth, the rogue black hole is the first of its kind ever defined, although it might be just some dirt on the radar screen. Most of the black holes that have been discovered so far have been situated in binary star systems, mainly because their interaction with their partners have made them easier to detect. While physicists aren't they just basically people who guess using maths, Hobbit?
Theoretical physicists are.
Oh, okay then. Had long expected. I mean, they might be theoretical physicists, but they're just calling them physicists because they're lazy journalists.
If they're astrophysicists, then yeah, it's all speculation and
yeah. Well, physicists had long expected stellar mass black holes to also exist in isolation. Detecting one against the empty blackness of space had proven a challenge. So how'd you find a black hole on a black background, Hobbit?
X-ray emissions.
Okay.
No, isn't it like examining the behaviour of nearby astral bodies and how they move?
Well,
like how they don't go near it.
I will tell you right now. Now, though, with the help of the Hubble Space Telescope and a phenomenon known as gravitational lensing, it has finally been possible to detect one of these objects directly. We now know that the isolated black holes exist, said study lead author Kailash Sahu of the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore.
Hello, my name is Kailash Sahu. I am Baltimorean. Yes, I am USA apple pie.
And they have masses similar to the black holes found in binaries. There must be lots of them out there. The newly discovered black hole is believed to be approximately 7.1 times the mass of the sun. How can a hole be a mass?
Because it weighs something.
Okay. Hole weighs something.
Well, technically, it doesn't weigh. It has a mass because its mass apparently affects the gravity, and that's why they're saying 100 kilograms on Earth would weigh 33 kilograms on Mars, and it would weigh 16 kilograms on the Moon because the mass hasn't changed, but the gravity's changed, so that's why the weight would change.
It's not really a hole. It just has a hole in the middle of it. Thing.
They call it an event horizon, and it's like beyond the event horizon, it's black.
It was a rubbish movie, by the way. That's just Hellraiser in space.
Controversial.
You're wrong.
Controversial.
Event Horizon is the.
Do you know I said that woman with the superpower could see a million colours? I was wrong. It was 100 million colours.
I said that last week.
Okay then.
Yeah.
Apparently, also space isn't black; it's beige.
Hobbit.
That's bollocks.
Computer models predict the collapse of society by 2040.
I don't want to read it because, like,
no,
it's a
but Hobbit. They predict end of 2040 if they not looked around. I think society's pretty much fucking done, lads.
Yeah, we're on death throes now.
Yeah.
Circling the drain.
Yeah.
I don't know how to tell them this, but by what metric are they on it?
Well, they seem to reckon we've got another 20 years left, so.
Well, there's the Douglas Murray thing about how society's always obsessed with gender before they collapse.
Well, G.K. Chesterton says that, like a dying man gets remedies on his bedside table, a dying empire attracts laws.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that. A dying empire makes up new laws, like a dying man makes up new remedies.
Oh, have you seen this? First known sighting of ball lightning in England uncovered. Just ball lightning is just so much more likely than UFOs, isn't it, Hobbit? You know, that UFO you saw, it's ball lightning, but the first known sighting of ball lightning in England has been uncovered, even though ball lightning is so common, Hobbit.
Oh yeah, I mean, got ball lightning up the wazoo.
Yeah, it's just everywhere, isn't it? It's all over the fucking place.
About grease lightning.
I can't swing a cat for all the ball lightning that everyone's tripping up over.
Researchers have come across the detailed account of ball lightning sighting that occurred almost 1,000 years ago. It was probably a UFO. Do you think that's what we should do when they say about ball lightning? Is just go, well, it's probably a UFO.
Yeah.
Because when they talk about UFOs, they go, oh, it's probably ball lightning. So I think we should do the same back, shouldn't we?
Yeah, but fuck these guys.
Technically are. I mean, if you consider that they're flying, they're unidentified and they're objects.
They're not unidentified, they're ball lightning.
Oh, aren't we supposed to use the new politically correct term where they're objects of...
UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yeah. I was going to say objects of colour.
Objects of spherical.
Yeah, they have like a bluish tint to the light.
Oh my fucking word! Fraudsters take corpse into post office to claim a dead man's pension. Jesus Christ!
Someone's seen what's it? Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, fucking
we
hell!
We did this last week because I kept saying it's Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and you was like, "No, you're confusing it with the other
I wondered why you were talking about that.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I wondered why you were talking about that. I think I missed a bit.
Yeah, that's it. That's why we'd say Weekend at, and you're saying no Hobbit. You're not saying Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The film where they got like the dead guy and they're pretending it's alive is Weekend at Bernie's, and I thought it was Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and I always get those films mixed up because I watched them back to back.
Did we do this one? Unidentified animal baffles experts in Pennsylvania.
Sexperts?
Sexperts.
Are they zoophile experts?
Probably are furries. They're probably furries.
Speaking of which, you see that furry that claims to have invented the chinky cough vaccine?
No.
Oh, there was a thing.
Would you inject anything that a furry gave you?
Oh, it's definitely not going to be like AIDS. So
yeah, but it might have had AIDS wiped on it though.
Oh, furries. What they do is they rub up against each other, and it's called yiffing. Learned that from an episode of CSI.
Oh, no, they had furries in CSI. I bet they took them seriously as well, didn't they?
There was a murder at a furry convention or something.
No.
Actually, that's probably like fairly plausible for a. Yeah, that's actually a. Oh my God, a CSI plot that's plausible. What's the world coming to? I know about yiffing because of Family Guy, and then the guy's like, "I'm a car. I'm not yiffing you."
Cars aren't furry, are they? So.
Yeah, but there's like, have you seen the thing of sexualized depictions of cars and battleships?
Yeah. Oh, the people have married their cars.
Oh, there's that stupid bin who married the colour pink, and I wanted to slap her until the cheeks go pink.
It's like, yeah.
What the fuck? You seen this?
It's like
Hundreds of
people who think they own pronouns.
A recent torrential downpour in the north of Arizona prompted hundreds of long dormant eggs to hatch. Hidden beneath the arid soil, these tiny eggs are nothing if not patient as they wait dormant, sometimes for decades at a time, for the right amount of moisture to facilitate hatching. Fuck
Didn't
me.
do that a few weeks ago when there was this story about like frogs and they're in the rocks and suddenly there's
they're
rain.
mini horseshoe crabs with 3 eyes. They just called triops. They look like that. Oh, look, you seen it? It looks like something out of fucking some alien film.
It is. Horseshoe crabs are aliens. Have you seen the thing where they're harvesting horseshoe blood for reasons and it's blue, like the colour of that beer?
No, you're joking.
No, there's a thing. If you type in horseshoe crabs harvested blood harvesting, and you'll see they got the like rows upon rows of them in a pharmaceutical company.
Do you believe this story? A 3-year-old who wandered off into the woods was found after a man was told by God to go and look for him.
Yeah. No, unironically, I do believe that.
I think that horseshoe crab is related to the trilobite.
Yeah, I think that's probably why they call it a triop, isn't it?
What's harder to believe, right? Like a 3-year-old boy raised by wolves, where the wolves don't eat him.
Yeah.
Or 3-year-old boy and Manka's like, yeah, God told me to go in the forest and rescue this boy.
Neither of them. Actually, okay. Wolves. I don't think wolves would eat a baby.
Well, not if his name's Mowgli.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're a furry then? It's like, oh, the noble wolf won't eat this.
Dom's unveiling himself.
There's this poor, defenseless baby that's succulent and not a challenge, and you know, they're going to raise it and they're going to teach it like to walk like you, talk like you, do things like you. Yeah.
What's this all about? Has the Zodiac Killer finally been identified? We know the Zodiac Killer is. It's Ted Cruz. Everyone knows that.
Cruz.
Ted Cruz. That's the joke, isn't it? That's the meme. It's Ted Cruz is the Hobbit. You know this meme, don't you?
No.
Isn't Ted Cruz another serial killer?
No, Ted Cruz is the American politician, and the meme is that Ted Cruz is the Zodiac Killer.
It's funny because I don't know either of these people, and the joke is Hobbit is ignorant, and I go, yes, I don't know anything about anything, and then Hemi goes, Hobbit's ignorant, and then I go, yes. And then we have a good old laugh because, like, Hemi will say, hey, did you know about this celebrity? And I'm like, no. And then Hemi will go, do you live under a rock? And I was like, actually, yes, I do. And we all have a good laugh.
So they've figured him out. It's, according to the team, the Zodiac Killer was Air Force veteran Gary Francis Post, who died in 2018. Their conclusion is named on a number of things, including similarities between Post's photograph and a 1969 police sketch, as well as the solutions to some of the killer's encrypted messages.
I think my joke took a long time to explain and lost the punch of it a bit.
If you're explaining, you're losing, Hobbit.
Yeah. Yep. I'll go with that.
Yeah. Right, I think that's us done, isn't it?
I want to go to bed.
It's same here.
I'm ill.
I'm not ill, but I do want to go to bed.
Oh well, I also woke up early. I do that now. That's my thing.
So anyway,
I wake up early.
so stay spooky, everybody. Night.